Wow. Sorry. Hey, what's going on, guys? Loot Channel here. Today, I'm having a relapse. Today, I'm having a relapse. A relapse on what, Loot Channel? Your mind is thinking. Fentanyl? Cocaine? Animal-related drug products? Yowie? Well, I'm pleased to tell you that it's none of the usual suspects, and I am instead delighted to inform you that it is, in fact, roller coaster related. I don't know if I have spoken about this, like, a lot. But I am a huge roller coaster nerd. I have kind of fell out of it in the past few years. But I do love them very much. I love them so much that I can usually go to parks, point at something, and recognize, like, the manufacturer and what type of roller coaster it is. Especially if it's, like, a common one. Like I said, I've lost my touch a little bit, but I love roller coasters, guys. They're like my favorite thing in the whole wide world. And I could go on them for over and over and over and over and over and over and over. They're so fun. They are so fun. Our bunny ears ever coming back. I like having the horse ears because they feel like they're more reactive. Right? Because I can do that and then kind of gives me more of like an angry feel. Yeah, they're coming back at some point. I need to get started on like another outfit or whatever, but honestly, I've been having like the busiest non-busiest summer of all time, so I don't know. Nom 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 nom. Guys, who's ready to eat? Who's ready to eat their dinner and watch YouTube with me? That sounds tired. It is tired. There's a reason that I have my coaster spark renewed, and that's because I went to a theme park over the weekend with some buddies. It was a long ways away. 'Twas was a long ways away. But I was still so delighted to be back. My heart my heart yearns and longs to feel the wind in my hair and to be launched going like, I don't know, 70 miles per hour. I yearn for it. I yearn for it. Frick you, rabbit, bro. Frick you. Actually, wait. Why is the Twitch chat not working? It should be working. I don't know why it's not working. Oh, man. Not fucking working. Oh, wait. I know why it's not working. Guys, I know why it's not working. It's because it's not there. I fixed it. Look at that. Wow. Alright. Hey, Twitch class is kind of no longer a second class citizenry. Anyways, I went on a lot of roller coasters this weekend, and I have discovered that for some reason, every time I make friends, where'd you go to? I can't tell you. I cannot tell you. I'm sorry. I can't tell you, but I can be vague. I have discovered. You will tell us, no, I won't. I went to Albania. Yeah, I went to Albania. That's definitely it. Um, I will tell you that one of the worst mistakes you can make as someone who loves adrenaline is to bring your non-adrenaline focused friends with you to these theme parks, because it keeps happening. It keeps happening to me. I keep being like, guys, let's go to our local amusement park and let's all go have fun, and everyone's like, that sounds so awesome, Luciano. And then we get there and they're like, is now a bad time to tell you that I actually hate roller coasters and that I don't want to go on roller coasters? And then I'm standing there at the start of the line for the biggest, tallest, and fastest one in the freaking park, and I'm like, oh, what? Oh man, bamboozled again. Bamboozled again. But it's so fun. The roller coaster is right behind me, isn't it? I will say, I've come up with some whole weekend being a spaz and having the time of your life, and everyone else was nauseous and dizzy. Kind of. There was a water park as well. So we all attended the water park together, and that was fun. Mostly together. Mostly together. It was pretty good. It was pretty good stuff. Contraption that spins so fast you're pinned to the wall. Those are always my favorite contraptions to ride. I love the gravity ones where you stick out your hands and then if you get forced back. Those are so fun. Those are my favorites. I may have overdone it a little bit. If I could give you a piece of its advice, it's to maybe not suggest to ride a coaster 3 times in a row, especially with people who you know are not as energetic as you. I think that's probably not a good thing to do. Sound a bit hungover. I'm not hungover. My voice is tired from screaming. But thank you. I don't know. My voice is still gone from screaming so much, cuz I don't know about you guys, but like the best part about going on roller coasters is that you can scream. And not even being scared, it's just fun to be loud. It's just fun to be loud, you know what I mean? It's super fun. I love being loud as hell. I will say I've come up with a few new bits while I was there. A few really good bits. There were instant hits. Like I said, water park, fun. One of my favorite bits was, sometimes at water parks you have to like pass off a tube to the next rider or whatever after you're. Hello? Hello? Hold on, I'm taking a bite of food. Hi. Meow. Did it stop again? Who knows? Struggling, but you're mostly here. It says I'm not dropping any frames, so I'm not sure why. Guys, did it... Did you guys hear my story? Or do I have to repeat myself? Do I have to run it back? Oh my gosh, my voice is so gravelly. I might have to run it back. Run it like a reprint. Last thing we heard was right after you talked about being able to yell. Okay. So I totally, I've come up with some new methods for the next time you guys get to go to an amusement park. Cedar Point, Six Flags, whatever, right? I've come up with some new methods, and I want you to try to use them if you are as brave as I. The park that I went to had a water park attached. And, you know, sometimes after you're done with the ride, you give the tube to the next rider, and then they go up, and then, you know, the cycle repeats and whatever, right? Pretty normal, I would say. So, what you do is you hand that off to the next rider, make sure they're a few feet away, and then you say really loudly, "Man, I'm glad that this was a water park. No one's gonna know that I pissed all over that tube," and then you walk away. I got some really great reactions out of the people that I did that to. My favorite was this guy wearing a cape of some kind, and he fucking turned on his heel. He went, "What the fuck?" and then walked away. What the fuck? He said it exactly like that too. I was pulling a whole bunch of shenanigans. It was good. It was good. It was funny. It was awesome. Another favorite of the day. Another favorite of the day started on the water park's lazy river. We got on the tubes, and I asked every single lifeguard on the lazy river what their favorite Pokemon was. And I'm not even really that into Pokemon or anything. Like, that's not something that I'm, like, particularly, it's not something I particularly care about too much. It's, like, exists. But I was getting a really good survey. And so I kept it up as I wandered amok through the park forevermore. And I had to have asked at least 40 ride workers what their favorite Pokemon was. And not even just ride workers, but just workers in general. I'd go up to, like, the restaurant places, and I'd be like, "Yo, I ain't trying to buy something, but what is your favorite Pokemon? I'm trying to know." And I got answers, and it was great, man. I mean, it was fantastic. You know? So I only got one bad response, and it was a lifeguard, and she, like, was being a fucking dickwad. She was like, she fucking stared at me like I asked her to, like, kill her son or something. I don't know. It was crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Guys, I'm so freaking tired. I'm so tired. But I want to facilitate my autism a little today. So I hope we all have a plate of food, because I do. I'm eating Chinese food, if you care. And today we're going to watch roller coaster related videos, I think. Oh my gosh, El Toro Ryan in the sidebar. I know we're trying to hit up that El Toro Ryan 2-hour long video. I know we are trying to do this. Yes, us chat. I sound like I'm fucking high, but I promise you I'm not. I just don't have a voice right now. He's a roller coaster engineer. Wait, fuck. I don't think it's showing the, I don't think there's no audio. Hold on. I'm figuring it out. Oh boy. Capture audio beta. Okay, it's not working. Awesome. That's so cool. I'm so happy that it's not working. It's really awesome. Sigh, if only this would freaking work. Alright, I'm testing it. No, it's not working. Okay, cool. Alright, hold on. what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put it over and just chatting, and it's gonna look really bad for a split second. Hold on. Everybody chill out. Everybody chillax. Nobody freak out. I'm fixing it. Maybe. Hold on. Chat text box big. Get refreshed, idiot. Ha, you got refreshed. Okay, hold on. Game. We're going to fix this over here. I'm just gonna add a new window, I think, and then get rid of the old one. Browser. Wait. Window capture. Here we go. I'm gonna add existing WinCap 2. Me and WinCap 2 against the world. I know that's right. Gang, gang. When me and my losers pull up, yeah, you better get to running. Hold on. I'm figuring it out. Oh my gosh, I have no space to move my mouse. Holy guaco freaking moly. You sound like you don't want to stream. You sound like you're trying to tell me to smile at like a retail job. That's the worst ever. When you're at like a fucking retail job, someone comes in, tells you to fucking smile. I'm gonna blow my brains out in front of you. Shut up. Don't tell me anything. You're taller when you smile? I don't want to get taller. I don't need it. Okay. Capture audio beta. Please. I know every pony is trying to hear my audio. Oh my gosh, we do. Wow. Oh my god. I know everybody is trying to listen to this video with me. Don't know if you saw, but we rescheduled the Sonic Crosswell's tourney to Sunday, July 12th. Still interested? Perchance I will speak to you later about it. How else will you ride all those rides they turned you away from? They didn't though. I can ride the rides. Actually, I think being short means that you're better for rides, because usually the carts don't have that much space, so the fact that I'm kind of small means that I get extra wiggle room in the restraints, and it means that I get better airtime, and it's awesome. All right, guys, we're trying to watch this.
Hi, I'm Corey Keepert. I'm a roller coaster engineer.
Hi, Corey.
Let's answer some questions
nice
from the
to
internet.
meet you.
This is roller coaster support.
Okay. Does it sound good?
At Mudfence
Less chance of getting
what's the
decapitated,
tallest
but that'd be
roller
so
coaster in
awesome.
the USA
Imagine
and
being-
the fastest in
Imagine being decapitated on a roller coaster and your family is constantly reminded of your passing, because every single 18-year-old kid starting out who wants to make a true crime YouTube channel covers your thing like as your death is like the 5th episode on his podcast, and is also very disrespectful about it the whole time, and is constantly making inappropriate jokes about it that will absolutely make the family upset if they heard about it. Could you believe that? Wouldn't that be crazy? Sorry. Capitate on Super Mario Land DK coaster. That's the one in Universal, right? I haven't ridden any of the ones that are not in Islands of Adventure. I've ridden Velocicoaster, the Castle Harry Potter one. I don't remember the name of it. And Hulk. And they were all, like, okay. I didn't really care for Velocicoaster much. I thought it was, I mean, like, it's good and everything. Like, it's a good coaster, but I've been on better ones.
the world. The tallest roller coaster in the world and the fastest roller coaster in the world currently is King Ka, Six Flags Great
No,
Adventure.
this is false. 1 year ago. False. Not true anymore. The tallest and fastest and longest coaster in the world is Falcon's Flight in Qiddiya, Saudi Arabia. I don't know. It's in fucking Saudi Arabia or whatever. I don't care what they put in Dubai. I'm not fucking going to Dubai. I don't care what coasters Six Flags put in Dubai. I'm not going there. I miss the King of Ka so bad. I can't believe they tore it down because Cedar Point has a fucking hate boner against King of Ka or whatever, and they wanted to be Top Thrill too. Fuck you, dude. Fuck you. I hope you die.
New Jersey, 456 feet tall.
That should have been me. I should have gone on King of Ka.
I would not want to be the one inspecting that ride. Use a drone. At Kristen Marie, has anyone thought who invented the first roller coaster? Were they just like, let's sit in a cart and drop up and down on rails for fun? The first roller coaster actually goes back to Russian ice slides. So basically like sliding down a hill on a block of ice. And then it evolved into like mine carts. And people said, hey, like maybe I could make money off of this, this coal mining operation, like when it's not in use. You can sort of see some of this in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
That's awesome. Imagine going on a roller coaster like that.
Has a little bit of truth. Someone named LaMarcus Thompson opened the Switchback Railway at Coney Island in 1884.
That sounds so awesome.
He's known to many people as the father of roller coasters. At Shuffle Up, I guess. What causes that weightless feeling we get on roller coasters when experiencing a big drop or a loop? You at home right now, you're experiencing 1G. That's 1 times your body weight. Now, when you're accelerating down, like through a valley of a roller coaster, suddenly you're experiencing maybe 3 or 4 Gs, 3 or 4 times your normal weight. When I'm going over a hill, there's a force, a centripetal force. It's like V squared over R. So you have 1G down normally, right? And then you have another G pushing up, and that zeroes each other out, so you actually feel this like weightless feeling. Similarly, like if I'm on a swing set, when I get to the very top, there's that instant before I fall back where you again feel that weightless sensation. We're trying to give you some places on the ride where you feel like no G's, where you feel that weightless feel.
If it was on a roller coaster, I would not mind having 5G mind control. That sounds so sick.
Like an astronaut in space floating would feel. And then there are other places on ride where we just want to push you into the seat and make you feel 3Gs or 4Gs on some rides. There are some rides where it's just like up to almost 6Gs. That's basically what a ride designer does, is how can we manipulate the G-forces and give you like a thrilling ride experience. At 610 Sports KC says, where is the best seat on a roller coaster?
Back,
I think in general,
wheels.
Think about the extremes, the front seat or the back seat. The back seat of a ride, that's where going down the first drop, you get the air time.
Yep.
But if a ride has something like a double up.
The best. Okay, I need to apparently speak louder. So I'm just going to turn up the gain on my thingamabob. I'm so sorry if this throws off the audio leveling. But like, the best place for airtime on is the back of the carts. Like the best place for views. And if you really want to sound like hear the sound of it all, not hear, but like feel the G's, I feel like is like the front cart. But I feel like the best cart for me, in my opinion, is the back cart, because not only is it the like most intense 99% of the time because, you know, physics or whatever, but I'm small, so I get thrown around a lot. And there have been times where I've been riding roller coasters in the back seat and it feels like I'm genuinely just going to fall out of the restraints, and it's awesome.
Then you get that front seat air time as you go into those hills. When you have a really long train, you might only experience more extreme air time on the front end or the back end of a ride. But I think there's a whole group of rides where you have just a fun experience no matter where you're sitting on the ride. Like I know a ride that we recently did, I sat in all 12 different seats and I just had great air time everywhere. Really, the best answer is like you need to try every seat on every roller coaster. At CO Swoji, how do roller coasters get tested? The very first time rides
you guys
go
like
around,
roller coasters?
we fill them up with test dummies. Many times parks use like water dummies that are kind of shaped sort of like the body. We send it around the track and we have something like this. This here is actually an accelerometer. What it does is it takes impulses of voltage and relates them to the G-forces of the ride. Like as you're going down the ride, this thing will react to the accelerations. If you look on my screen, you can see
on a roller coaster? You should. They're fun.
Forces. Me, I'm 1G. That's my weight. But
motion
if we're
sick on a
going
merry-go-round.
through that valley,
What? How?
someone might have like 3 times my.
I never get motion sick. I genuinely think the only time I've been motion sick is one time where I was reading like a book for 3 hours straight, and then I looked up from the book and I got dizzy. And that's only because I was reading in a car for 3 hours straight, and it kind of enhanced the experience actually, because the book was Uzumaki. So honestly, the motion sickness made it a better read. But that's so crazy. I always forget that the general populace is not very, like, fond of roller coasters, I guess. I feel like I could go on one a billion times and never get bored or never get headaches or anything. The one time that I have gotten turned off of a roller coaster has been, this is going to seem like a very weird choice, but the Raven at Holiday World. The Raven at Holiday World. I don't know what about that ride. I think I got like whiplash or something on it. I don't remember exactly what, but I just remember that I had like the worst migraine of my life after getting off of that ride. Like, it just instantly kicked in. And I don't know what about it caused that, because I've been on much more intense roller coasters. And that was not even close to being one of them. And then I was out for like 3 or 4 days after the fact. It was awful. It was so awful. So, make money if people weren't interested. That's true, I guess. But I guess most like parks and stuff don't really... Yeah, I guess because coasters are like the themed crown jewel of their, parks and stuff. But most people just pay like one general admission fee, and then they get access to everything in the park. You know what I mean? For the whole day, I had to lay in bed. It was like the round swinging pendulum thing that went very high. Oh, I know what you're talking about. They're putting flat rides of those in like all of the Cedar Fair and Six Flags parks. I haven't been on one yet, but I would like to. There was one at the last park that I went to, but I haven't been on it quite yet. Corkscrew at Cedar Point is probably the worst coaster I've been on. That one has a reputation for being genuinely the worst coaster ever, so yeah, that makes sense. That and the Green Lantern. There's a roller coaster called Green Lantern, and I think they should just rename it to the Ball Crusher, because, well, gulp. I think the nickname is pretty apt. Do you guys not want Hey, if anyone doesn't want kids, you should go ride the Green Lantern. Certainly comment, but they at least used to be the main draw. Now it's probably just getting out of the house. Yeah, maybe. But everything's so expensive that it feels like you can't even go to them anymore. I mean, I went to Universal and it was like $150 for just the singular one area ticket, and that's too much money. You can't be forced to pay like $150. That's so much money. Road Green Lantern, it wasn't that uncomfortable, but the hanging sensation wasn't very fun. Oh, you did? Oh, you lucky duck. You know from experience? Oh, yeah. My balls constantly get busted. All the time. Kid getting hurt from one. Honestly, the crazy part is that flat rides are probably way more dangerous than roller coasters. I don't remember where I saw the statistic at, but I saw a statistic recently that's like only 9 people have died since like the early 2000s on roller coasters that were not like I'm trying to remember the statistic. It's something like that. If you take away like human error issues, you know what I mean? You're a girl though? Are you sure? I can slam Modelo's like nobody's business. I think I'm a pot-bellied Mexican man. Batman was way better. Don't show it on stream.
I wait 3 Gs or something. We'll use a device like this mounted.
Human error is a very real concern. No,
we'll...
human error is a very real concern, but there are a lot of safety mechanisms that go into roller coasters that even if human error happens, those machines would be able to catch that. Definitely. There are so many safety checks that go into like everything. I do think human error is definitely a real possibility that can happen, but there's like safety machines are crazy. You're way more likely to get hurt on a shitty flat ride at your local like carnival than you are on a roller coaster.
Correlate that with our design data that says, hey, at this point in the ride, we should have been this many G-forces.
Kid got flung off the ride. There's a lot of metal
year
bang
after
sound.
year,
You don't have to
test
turn the volume up to hear
make
it.
sure that it's
Well,
not
yeah.
changing. There's other testing that we do
Bungee
throughout
jumping
the
story from
process
like
of the
3
rides
weeks
as
ago.
well. You know, like
Once again, I mean, that's not a roller coaster, though. That's bungee jumping.
Guys,
I've been really into base jumping recently. Not like actually doing it, but Instagram Reels has been giving me so much bungee jumping, skydiving, and base jumping content that I'm starting to get psyoped into wanting to do it. There you see me there? I'm trying to remember the it's some type of danger index. And I don't remember what it is. But there's like a way that they measure danger. And I think it was something like a car ride. Just a simple car ride to an amusement park is way more dangerous than like actually being on a roller coaster. You know what I mean? You get paid to do it and they give you a gun. Fair enough. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, yo, I could totally be an astronaut since I don't get motion sickness at all. DUI deaths are very low if you take the cases away of human error. But DUI deaths are directly caused by humans. Roller coasters are like machines that like automatically do what they need to do and you just press a button. So I don't think that's very quantifiable. I feel like that's kind of a straw man argument. I think you people need to live a little. I think that's the joke. Well, yeah, but I feel like you can't say inherently that roller coasters are dangerous if they're doing everything that they're designed to do. That's not quantifiable. You feel me? Most oppressed minority, I'm saying.
That might be made out of steel.
Everybody hates
might do
drunk
some
drivers
non-destructive
because of their
testing on
bad
that
ones.
to make sure that there are no cracks from a material defect or from a machining defect. There's a lot of work
I love
that goes
Chinese
on
food.
behind the
God
scenes
bless
at an
Chinese
amusement
people.
park
This
to
is so
keep you
good.
safe. Testing isn't just something that happens before it opens up to the public. It's an ongoing process. At Koning Steve says, which coaster is better, old school wood or modern metal? Before we can get into
Depends.
this, we got to figure out like what's a wood versus a metal coaster.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky for you, I happen to have brought some wooden roller coaster track and some steel roller coaster track. On a
Hate going
wooden
upside
roller
down.
coaster,
That's the best
you
part.
can see I've got all these layers of wood.
That and ejector
then
hills.
On the top, I have this piece of running steel. There'd be two of these. There'd be a mirror image over here. Wood changes, you know, on a day when it's wet, it expands a little bit. So you get a different ride depending on the environment. Steel roller coasters, the top wheel might have been here and the side wheel here, and then there'd be a mirror image, like another piece of steel over here, and then there'd be another tube down below. They'd take this steel and they'd bend it into the shape with your curves and your drops.
Someone vomits on the ride and you get covered in it. Funnily enough, that happened the other day. I was riding. I can't tell what I was riding because I actually don't know how many copies of it there are. But I can tell you it's a very popular flat ride. And someone had vomited on one of the seats. And they just, I don't know, they just cleaned it up. They left it empty for the next ride and then sent it a few times through. And then it was clean after. So, whatever. I'm sure, honestly, you probably touch way worse all the time. Is it bad that I don't care? I straight up cried from shock after getting off the Batman at Six Flags. Seriously? Actually? Yeah, someone puking on you is way worse than the actual ride. I don't know. Maybe I don't get as scared as much because... So I wear glasses, right? And obviously I don't want them to fly off whenever I'm riding anything. And so I always put them away before I ride. Just off to the side or like in my shirt or something. Whatever. And so I never... It's always very blurry. It's always very blurry whenever I ride anything. So I don't know. Maybe I just don't get the sense of height or whatever. I don't know.
below the track. Some you're flying like Superman on the tracks. I personally like all the hard work that goes into a wooden coaster. I think they're more beautiful, but I've had some amazing rides on steel roller coasters too. At Free Dejan Wells asked, how do roller coasters stay on the tracks? I'm gonna bring out my handy dandy wooden roller coaster track model again. It's quite a workout for me today. When you look at this track, and the same is true with the steel coaster piece that I have, there's a running surface for a top wheel, a side wheel, and then what's really cool is there's this place on this track for an undercarriage wheel. So we have multiple wheels that are holding it on track. This is a model of a roller coaster car where you can see the top wheel, some side wheels, and then an uplift wheel. And that just kind of locks on this track and prevents it from coming off. That technology actually goes back to the early 1900s. John Miller, who's a classic wooden roller coaster designer that was trying to push the limits. That was something that he patented. So technology from the early 1900s is still used today. Joe Kornick said, how do roller coaster designers determine the perfect balance between thrill and comfort for maximum rideability? Oh man.
First experience, but choosing Nitro as my first coaster that trip. My brain decided to grip the safety rail as hard as I could, which ended quite poorly. Yeah, I'm a hands-up kind of person. I don't think I ever touch the rails, ever, or the restraints at all. I try not to, at least. I hate it.
That's like the Colonel's 7 herbs and spices, totally secret,
Second
right?
coaster I've ever ridden. Nitro as a second coaster you've ever ridden is like, that's like going into an inch of shallow water and then immediately deciding that you want to immediately go into the deep end or like into the Mariana Trench. So I feel for you. I'm sorry.
The measure of success isn't like seeing how many people are running toward the trash can puking. The measure of success is like, are people laughing? Are they smiling? Are they getting off the ride and wanting to just go through that turnstile and ride that ride again? I think as humans, we love the bouncy feel. I think that's why airtime is just so much fun.
Yes.
But I mean, we all love like race car drivers and just like being banked, going around that curve at a high speed, being pushed into your seat. And it's like music. We only have so many notes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But we're varying the rhythm.
Always
we're
front row
varying
hands down,
the
rest
order
is
of
up.
the notes and how fast we play certain notes. We haven't come up with every song that exists yet. And similarly, we haven't come up with every like combination of G-forces that exists that can really thrill and excite people. Atmos Sneed said, engineers are so cool. Like how TF, you build a whole roller coaster. Thank you, by the way, for calling me cool. First of all, these are not roller coaster building hands. These are mouse clicking hands. I spend a lot of my time behind a computer doing calculations and CAD work. The first thing that we do is we like to look at, like, say, a Google Earth image or a site plan of the park. And then I love going to the parks and just walking around and getting a sense for the site. If there are certain hills or undulations, or if there's a certain ride that's nearby that I could interact with, that's gonna add to the experience. There was a ride once where we had the first drop, and then there was a log flume that was coming in the opposite direction. And if you time that ride just right, the way we designed it, you can get splashed from that log flume. And to me, that just added like a little bit of extra something special to the ride. At Dan Spencer says, being a roller coaster designer seems pretty easy. How big was the last one? Yeah, make this one bigger. Maybe faster too. Different parks have different criteria. Sometimes a park might be saying, I want something with this marketing hook. I want something that's taller, faster, steeper. But there are a lot of times where parks might be, you know, we want something that's for families. There are just so many different levels to the design of a ride.
Nobody needs something for
the ride
that.
path, and then also just the ride vehicle itself.
Nobody needs any family coaster. That shit's boring.
Table of numbers,
they can ride a mine cart like the rest of us, and then immediately skip to the big boy coasters.
At Jake Coasters says, why do all inverts have a curved first drop? Would a regular drop be painful, not thrilling? So I think like the inverted rides that you're talking about, it's true. Like there's like Batman the Ride, Alpengeist, different rides like that that might all have like a curving drop. Some of it could have to do with clearances. When you have people's legs dangling, you have to make sure that you
I've
can
ridden
keep
that
an
ride.
adequate distance.
So this is a very, that one, a lot of parks have this one. This is a B&M inverted, I think, and it's a very popular clone. This one's a very fun ride every time that you get to
one car to
ride
the
it.
next car. It could also have to do with the parks. Parks will say, hey, I want the
Coaster
high point
Tism
of
channel
the ride
before
here.
the car
The only
gun
way you
ones?
can have a high point
I've
there is
had
if you have
Coaster
an immediate
Tism for a
curve.
long
I like a
time.
nice straight drop so that I can have good air time in the back seat going down that drop. Other people are like, I want something majestic. I want you to see the scenery around
Designing
you.
non-death
Bette
coasters, things have
Malicamore
really changed.
said,
Oh my gosh, hi! How are you doing? It's so good to see you. I hope you're doing well. What's up? My voice is gone.
Design over their roller coaster designing career? I think that really varies. John Miller is a prolific wooden roller coaster designer.
Not particularly.
From the early 1900s. LaMarcus Thompson,
I
the
wish
father of
I
wooden
did.
roller coasters. At 19 years old, he brought John Miller under his wing. And then John Miller did like over 100 patents, some of which we still
Back on the
use
internet
today.
after IRL.
Like
Well,
at Kennywood Amusement
congratulations.
Park, there's the Racer, the Thunderbolt. They're still fantastic.
Oh my God,
He started designing
Kennywood.
in the like late 1800s to the mid 1900s or so. He did like over 100 rides, like all over. I've worked on like in the 30s to 40s now. At the Mullet Man 513 asked, how do roller coasters work? It's all about energy. We have like kinetic energy, we have potential energy, friction. You're putting some
Shiptism.
energy into the system.
I actually
so that
have
you can go
I have a shiptism book. And I like ships and I wish that I knew more about them. It's kind of the same with cars. It's called Sea Power, a modern illustrated military history. And it's sitting on my bookshelf and I have intents to read it, but I have not gotten around to it yet.
on a crazy path. Sometimes, like instead of like adding the potential, like having the lift hill, we'll put energy in like through some type of launch mechanism, like a limb or an LSM.
Yeah.
We take energy out of the system at the end, and that's
One of the
ride.
first rides to use the LIM was Flight of Fear. So if you've ridden that ride, you've partaken in history.
And we do that in a safe manner. So hopefully we make it seem like you got off your sofa and had like some type of crazy thrilling experience. At Gia Maria asked, carnival rides are very sketchy.
True.
If a roller coaster can be folded up and trucked away, that just ain't safe, to paraphrase. One of my bucket list rides that I would love to ride is something called Olympia Looping, which is the tallest, largest portable steel roller coaster.
That's
And it goes around
scary.
Europe all the time.
That
It's like
sounds
110
awesome.
feet tall and over 4,000
That
feet
sounds
long.
so
It's not a
sick.
little kiddie coaster. That ride, was designed by Schwarzkopf, who's a very legitimate ride designer. I think it's unfair to just isolate and say carnival rides are sketchy. The same people that inspect rides at amusement parks are inspecting rides at carnivals. If I made a portable roller coaster, the people at the carnival company, they'd have a checklist of daily inspections, weekly, monthly, and yearly inspections that they need to do on the ride.
Out of curiosity, what are your thoughts on wood roller coasters? I think woodies are great. Okay, this is going to be a little bit of coaster-tism coming out, and some of you may not know what I'm talking about, but I think we're losing a lot of very classic old wooden coasters to RMC conversions. And while I do like a lot of RMC conversions, because a lot of them are they're very world-class coasters, Steel Vengeance, Iron Gwazi, and whatnot. The list goes on. Unfortunately, Air Force One, which probably won't survive Fun Spot Atlanta's closure. I think woodies are awesome and they last for a very long time, and I think we should preserve them as best as possible. One of my favorite coasters that I've ridden has been the Voyage at Holiday World in Indiana, and I still I think that coaster is maybe one of the craziest rides that I've ever ridden, and I've ridden a few. I have a few credits here and there, So I think Gravity Group is awesome. So click and vibration you can't replicate with steel. I agree. I think the steel coasters obviously have their places, but No way wood lasts longer than steel. There are some coasters out there that are getting up there in age. I think there's one that's like at least 100 years old. It might be in Kennywood. It might be in Kennywood, actually. I know I was just talking about that. Hold on. Oldest roller coasters. I'm trying to remember. Yeah. Actually, it might be metal. Oldest operating coasters in the U.S. Hold on. Oldest wooden coasters. Okay, well, I was apparently lied to. No, I wasn't. It's the Jackrabbit that's in Kennywood near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It came out in 1920. Then there's another one in Copenhagen, 1914. And the Scenic Railway in Luna Park in Melbourne, Australia, also does that. So that's pretty awesome. It's pretty cool. Wish I could ride the Voyage, especially at night. It's great, not even at night. It's just fantastic. Safer than you think. There's a reason wooden ships last centuries while steel lasts about 50 years. Steel can definitely get very rough, especially if not maintained properly. So, I didn't like the look of the wooden frame of the El Toro. That was the one ride I refused that day. The El Toro is genuinely a fantastic coaster, so that's unfortunate. But I would understand if you had ridden the Nitro and was like, you're done. So.
At I'm Shio asked, why do roller coasters only last 2 minutes?
Because
Can
they go
be
fast.
Longer? The length of a roller coaster is a function of the cost.
Because they go fast.
Whatever
that's
the
why.
building material is of the ride, that's a direct cost driver.
Model
of how
trains
long
on stream
that
together to
ride
feed this
is.
tism.
When I was growing up
If
in
they
the
had,
1990s,
if they had model roller coaster kits, I would totally buy them and put them together on stream. That sounds so awesome.
kind of an arms race of roller coasters where parks were always trying to outdo one another. The Beast, which is the longest roller coaster in the world. It's over 7,000 feet long. That ride can take about 6 minutes. There's a ride in Saudi Arabia at Six Flags Qiddiya that's opening soon that's almost 14,000 feet long.
There it
Parks
is.
are also concerned about throughput, like how many people can ride that ride every hour. You need to
Told
have
him it was a
more and
boring
more
one
trains,
coaster. That's
and all of those
hilarious.
things add cost. At Johnny453 asked, is America the best at roller coasters? What other countries are in the running? Everybody talks about going to Velocicoaster or the Hagrid's motorbike. I mean, you got some good rides in Florida. You also have an amazing collection of rides overseas in Europe, Australia, China, just about every developed nation in the world. In fact, the biggest G-force of any ride is in South Africa. We have roller coaster manufacturers here in America, like that's where I'm based. But you also have a whole slew of roller coaster manufacturers in Europe. There's a big park being built
Germany's
in the
pretty
Middle East
popular.
right now, Six Flags Qiddiya, that's going to have the new longest roller coaster in the world. You've got amazing rides all over. At Ayakuni Yuki asks, what are roller coasters going to be like in 40 years? If I think about Coney Island and the Cyclone, like that thing's been there forever, and it's probably going to continue to be there forever. There are rides that are 100 years old, like the Wildcat at Lake Compounce here in the United States. So I think 40 years from now, some of those same rides that are classics now are going to be classics in the future as well. I also think some of the amazing thrill rides that we just are blown away by right now, you know, like King Ka or Top Thrill 2, I think there's still a place for them in the future as well. There's still going to be good rides produced tomorrow. We already have drops that go 90 degrees, so maybe we'll continue to push that envelope. Maybe they'll put a roller coaster on the moon, and then they'll deal with other gravitational problems. At Blakeademic asked, why do roller coasters put that little break in the middle of the ride? That's called a block break. That allows them to have another zone so that they can have another train on the track. You have to break up a ride into multiple zones so that you can have space between the different roller coaster trains that are on the track at a given time. That has to do with capacity. You want to maximize the number of people that can ride an attraction. At BritBrat14, why do coasters
Funny roller coaster
make
video?
me
Yeah.
tired? Anytime we have a ride, we have like a lot of adrenaline rush, like we're super scared. You come down off of that afterwards and you're like, I need a nap now. At SLAM 13, why do roller coasters always break down? Well, first of all, I don't know that roller coasters always break down. Sometimes, like there's new technology that you have to develop for a ride and you're doing it on a roller coaster for the first time. It's not a very great environment. You've got rain, wind, snow, earthquake. You also have like the vibration from the ride itself. When you have a lot of moving parts, when you have a lot of electrical parts, from time to time, there are things that might need to be replaced or looked at. And unfortunately, sometimes that does happen on the day that you visit a park. Just know, like from our hearts, that we're doing all we can to keep rides open as much as possible. At Coaster Touring, how thick does the metal running plate on a wood coaster have to be before it's a steel coaster? I think what Marcus is getting at is, see, on the top, I have this like ittle bitty layer of steel, you know, maybe it's like 3/8 of an inch thick or so. There are some rides where they're replacing this wood, you know, with more and more steel to the point where some of it, they keep the form factor, the shape that you might see on a wooden roller coaster, but it's really not made of wood anymore. Once it becomes something that's just cosmetic and not there for structural value, it's no longer a wooden roller coaster. It's a hybrid. All right, well, thank you so much.
Like
That's
a
all the
Rocky
questions
Mountain construction one. Like Rocky Mountain construction. Have you guys seen those coasters? They're so awesome. Hold on. RMC conversion. Mobility Mary. I don't know what that is.
In 2011, Rocky Mountain Construction opened New Texas Giant. This coaster was revolutionary for the time, as RMC found a new market in taking unpopular, outdated wooden coasters and modernizing them with smooth steel iBox track. But now it is 2026. New Texas Giant completed 15 seasons of operation, and RMC has slowly changed and developed their designs and layouts. The most recent RMC conversion projects
no
look
Mobility
much
Mary,
different than
no.
their humble beginnings with New Texas Giant. In today's video, I'm going to
Feel
use
spoiled passing it
statistics
as my
as
first
well
RMC.
as
I have not ridden an RMC coaster. I want to really badly. I have not been to Cedar Point. I would really like to go at some point. But I have not been, and it would be a dream come true to be able to ride some of these
No
coasters.
Limits 2 models of New Texas Giant and Wildcats Revenge to compare how RMC approaches hybrid
Background
conversions.
check research.
We will
Crazy all
analyze
day.
how
Crazy
RMC
like
changes
tip.
the
Thank
height,
you.
layout, and structure of old wooden coasters to create modern, award-winning rides.
What did Mean Streak get turned into? Was it Mean Streak that got turned into Steel Vengeance? I'm trying to remember. I think it is Main Streak that got turned into... Yeah, okay. I'm not crazy. So this was one of the very first popular RMC conversions. Took this wooden coaster that had a reputation for being like awful and super rough and like the worst ever to ride, and turned it into this. So cool. You can see it on the footage over here how it's so shaky and like ugh. But then this one, it's just whee! And it's not like the same shape of the coaster or anything, but I feel like it is better. This looks like CG on the right. The crazy thing is that it's not. Actually, it might be. I don't know. Kind of does look like CG. Now that you mention it, it might be. Fear of roller coasters. Too scary. No. Roller coasters are so awesome. Feels like gliding. Right one feels like driving in Bosnia. Yeah, sounds about right. There's a brake run. And then it goes back into the dive. It's cool. Japan lost their custody battle for Hatsune Miku. Did they really? Oh man, that's nuts. That's so crazy. Oh my gosh. El Toro Ryan mentioned. El Toro Ryan mentioned. I love, one of my favorite aesthetics is the turn of the century roller coaster advertisements. Which sounds really crazy, but like during the turn of the century and a little bit beforehand, the Great Coaster Wars was happening, which was a huge beef that Cedar Fair and Six Flags were having with each other, where they constantly felt the need to one-up each other, like constantly. And so it came out, like a lot of amazing rides came out of it and everything, but like this is so tough. It's so tough.
Has landed. Explore a new dimension.
And this was one of the,
Exceeds all
yeah.
expectations. X experience.
Why have competition with one another? Because competition breeds innovation. We wouldn't have some of the most amazing roller coasters in the world if it wasn't for that. So
At Six Flags Magic Mountain.
X is one of the most daring prototype roller coasters ever built. Constructed on a colossal scale, its
Widespread
massive
event when
20-foot
families
wide
had
train
kids with
sent
disposable
riders
income.
through
Yeah.
controlled front and back flips. This first of its kind seat rotation system allowed X to
I have been on a ride with seat rotation like this though, and it is like the craziest thing in the world, because you'll feel like the most intense like G's coming at you, like the craziest G force ever, and then the next moment you're like suddenly completely weightless. It's so awesome.
experiences that had never coexisted on a single coaster. Riding above the rails, riding below the rails, traveling forward and traveling backward all in one ride. That unprecedented design quickly earned X a reputation as not only the most unique roller coaster in the world, but also the most extreme, perfectly aligning with its name and catchphrase, X, experience the extreme. Even nearly 25 years after opening, X, now known as X2, still outthrills many of the newest roller coasters being built today. What makes X even more impressive is the extraordinary effort required to bring it to life. The rotating seats, cantilever trains, and sheer scale of the ride introduced a daunting list of engineering challenges, demanding an absurd number of design and construction hours to overcome.
X or Twitter.
The difficulty
Yeah,
of
X the Everything app, they turned it into a roller coaster.
delivering such an ambitious project ultimately pushed its manufacturer, Aerodynamics, into bankruptcy. The company
No,
severely
rest in
underestimated
peace,
the cost of producing X,
Aerodynamics.
resulting in
Actually, some of their rides really sucked. The Aerodynamics looper is maybe one of the worst things in the entire world.
losses totaling millions of dollars. Even
Who said
after
that?
construction
I
was
didn't say
complete,
anything.
new problems emerged. The trains dramatically exceeded their intended design weight, among many other unforeseen issues. As a result, X quickly became a maintenance nightmare, and the battle to create the ride evolved into an ongoing struggle to make
Do you guys watch Defunct Land? Magnum XL200 is great. Okay, I haven't ridden Magnum XL200, but I have ridden other ones, and they're not good.
the fully built coaster function as intended. In this video, we'll take a deep
We will
dive
remember
into the
this.
history
Yeah.
of X, the issues that plagued the original ride, the changes made to eliminate those problems, and the quirks that X2
No, Son of
still
Beast.
experiences
Yeah, that
today.
one sucked,
Before we
duh.
begin, I want
Sucked
to
massive,
emphasize that
duh.
if you've ever ridden X, or its current incarnation as X2,
Operate
you
the
were
ride if it's
always
that out of
perfectly
spec, what the
safe,
hell?
Despite its
Because these companies spend millions of dollars on these like gigantic crown jewel rides. And so at that point it's like, okay, let's just fix the ride to at least make it rideable, and then you can make your money back. You know what you mean? Or you know what I mean? Because you can replace the trains on a lot of these rides. Like, that is possible. You can figure out a way to do that. And sometimes replacing the trains will even make it like a better experience. Like, make your money back, but that's asking for trouble. Because parks are greedy and they like money. That's really the only answer I have. There's been a lot of times where they've had these gigantic prototype rides that they didn't know were going to do good, and then they had like crazy issues. Son of Beast is one of them. There's a roller coaster called Beast, really awesome. they did a second coaster to it called Son of Beast that was supposed to like one up it in every way, and it was awful because it wasn't like engineered properly. And they still kept it up for like what, 10, 15 years after the fact, because I mean, it's $1 million coaster. What are they going to do? Just waste all their money?
Challenges, X operated safely throughout its lifetime and continues to do so today. This video is in no way meant to cast negative light on aerodynamics or Six Flags Magic Mountain.
You have Thomas
And if you
interact with
enjoyed
Andrew
the
Ashton and
video,
Tomodachi
consider
just for
hitting
the means.
like
The
button,
tank
as that
engine,
helps
I
the
don't have
channel
Thomas the tank
immensely
engine on my
against the
Tomodachi
YouTube
Live
algorithm.
Island.
Without further ado, let's spin into the history of X.
Do you guys fuck with Defunct Land? I like Defunct Land. I think they're good. Tank engine, add him. No, I'm not adding Thomas the tank engine. He scares me. I don't like him. Do it. No, I don't feel like it. That looks so awesome. Raise your hand if you would go on that 10
I
times.
find the story of how X came to be absolutely fascinating because it wasn't the result of a single bold decision. It was the coalition of two powerful factors. First, the slow decline of a legendary
That's
ride
Arrow.
manufacturer, Aerodynamics.
That's an Arrow.
And second, a wildly aggressive Six Flags corporate strategy.
Yep.
One that embraced risky prototype attractions while racking up
And that was
staggering levels
the
of debt. To
Batman and
understand
Robin-
why X became so massive
Chiller?
and why it ultimately landed at Six Flags Magic Mountain, we need to start with the park itself.
Ow.
By 2001, Magic
Sorry,
Mountain
sorry,
had
sorry,
firmly
sorry.
established itself as one of the most dominant amusement parks in the United States. Located just 35 minutes north of downtown Los Angeles, the park welcomed an estimated 3.3 million visitors in the year 2000, numbers strong enough to justify another major headline attraction. Just as importantly, Magic Mountain had built its identity on record-breaking thrill rides, making it the perfect home for something as radical as X.
I'd like to go to
That
Magic Mountain one day
reputation began
too.
decades earlier. When the park first opened in 1971, it wasted little time chasing records. In 1976, Magic Mountain debuted the Great American Revolution, a steel roller coaster built by the German manufacturer Schwarzkopf. It became the first modern roller coaster to feature a vertical loop. Just 2 years later,
Tough.
the park raised the bar again with Colossus. Built by International Amusement Devices, this dual-tracked racing wooden coaster opened as the tallest and fastest roller coaster in the world, standing
Wow.
125 feet tall and reaching speeds of 62 miles per hour. In 1979, Six Flags officially acquired Magic Mountain, folding it into what was then a much smaller chain of Six Flags parks than we know today. Throughout the 1980s, the park continued to grow, adding new attractions like Ninja, built by Aerodynamics in 1988. While Ninja was not a record breaker, it marked the continued working relationship between Magic Mountain and Aero. Then, everything changed in 1989. This was the year Aerodynamics unleashed Magnum XL 200 at Cedar
Yep.
Point, the world's first roller coaster to break the 200-foot barrier. Towering at 205 feet, Magnum was absolutely massive for its time. And
I
its
like how they're
debut
gripping onto the
ignited
bar.
what would become known as the Coaster Wars, an era where
Yep.
parks raced to outdo one another with even larger and faster roller coasters. Magic Mountain entered the Coaster Wars in 1990 with Viper. Also built by Aerodynamics, Viper stood 188 feet tall, making
It's
it
just
shorter than
Aerodynamics
Magnum, but it
consistently
compensated
outdoing
with
itself.
7 intense inversions, earning the title of the world's tallest and fastest looping roller coaster. At this point, Aerodynamics still stood at the forefront of coaster innovation. In 1991, Aero escalated the arms race even further with Steel Phantom at Kennywood. It featured a massive 225-foot second drop.
That
plunging
sounds
into
so
the ravine,
awesome.
easily making it the world's largest drop. The ride also opened as the world's fastest roller coaster, hitting speeds of 80 miles per hour. By the
Tough.
mid-1990s, Aero continued to push height records. In 1994 alone, the company delivered 2 more coasters exceeding 200 feet. Pepsi Mac's Big One at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, standing 213 feet tall, and Desperado at the Buffalo Bills Hotel and Casino, reaching 209 feet tall. Like Steel Phantom, Desperado utilized terrain to achieve a 225-foot drop and speeds of 80 miles per hour. But this moment marked the end of Aero's dominance.
How
In
fast can a roller coaster go over
1996,
the limit?
next tallest and fastest
There is a roller coaster that just debuted in Six Flags Qiddiya City, which is in Saudi Arabia, called Falcon's Flight. which goes, I think, 150 miles per hour. But it also has like a 500-foot drop. Something insane like that. Santa Cruz, that's got a wooden frame, and I'm pretty sure the boardwalk deliberately fosters rumors that it's unsafe for like publicity. Interesting. Allah blesses it, I'm sure. Who has roller coastertism? Yes. Pepsi, I think so.
Fastest roller coaster, Fujiyama at Fuji-Q Highland, was not built by Aero, but the Japanese manufacturer Togo. Standing 200
I want to go to Fuji-Q Highland so bad.
Fujiyama signaled a shift in the industry as Aero began to
I need
fall
to go
behind
so
its
bad.
competitors. The coaster wars surged on, and Magic Mountain had no intention of backing down. In 1997, the park reclaimed the spotlight with Superman the Escape. Built by the Swiss manufacturer Intamin, it became the first roller coaster
Intamin
to reach 100
mentioned.
miles per hour and tower over 400 feet, with a staggering height of 415 feet. While controversial due to its shuttle design, as its cars never reached the peak of its vertical spike, and some coaster fans did not even consider the ride a true roller coaster, Superman undeniably shattered previous limits of scale and technology, and proved Magic Mountain was willing to take unprecedented risks. The park doubled down in 1998 with Riddler's Revenge, built by the Swiss manufacturer Bolliger & Mabillard, or B&M for short. To this day, it remains the tallest and fastest stand-up roller coaster ever constructed. Then came Goliath in 2000. Built by the Swiss manufacturer Giovanola, it briefly claimed the title of the world's tallest and fastest complete circuit roller coaster, featuring a 255-foot first drop and
Never
a
going
top
to stand-up
speed of
coaster.
85
Stand-up
miles
coasters
per
are
hour.
how you
But
die.
The coaster wars were moving faster.
I'd still go on them though.
Just months later, Cedar Point in
Millennium
Ohio
Force.
debuted Millennium Force, the first
There she
complete
is.
circuit roller coaster
She's so
to
beautiful.
exceed 300 feet tall. And before even that record could settle, Steel Dragon 2000 opened at Nagashima Spaland, rising 318 feet into the sky and stretching an astonishing 8,133 feet in length, making it not only the
Pre-watched.
tallest
Nuh-uh.
and fastest complete circuit roller coaster,
I just got
but also the
autism.
world's longest. This was the start of the
Something,
environment that
something, my
created
bro got
X, an era
autism.
defined by setting records regardless of the
He's
cost,
not throwing up
and a
gang
park
signs. That's
obsessed
just my
with claiming
dog
records.
stimming. Goodbye, aerodynamics.
This leads us
Goodbye.
to the decline of aerodynamics. After the debut of Desperado and Pepsi Max Big One, every new
Pepsi Max
record-breaking
Big One.
roller coaster
They're just
was
coming up
built
with
by a different
random fucking
manufacturer.
names for these
Aerodynamics,
coasters.
once the
Just some
undisputed leader
bullshit.
of the industry, had fallen behind.
Rise
This
to go
is
backwards.
astonishing when you consider Aero's legacy.
You're
Aero did
gonna
not
be
just
so
influence the
freaked
modern
out when I tell you
amusement
this.
industry, they helped create it. Under their original name, Aero Development, the company built many of Disneyland's original opening day attractions, including Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, Casey
I have not
Jr.'s
been to
Circus
Disney.
Train, and the Mad Tea
Disney's
Party, as well as future
far too
classics
boring for
like
me, I
Haunted
fear.
Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean. In 1959,
If I'm not going over 50
Aero
miles per
forever
hour, I
changed
don't wanna
roller
go on
coaster
it. I'm
design
sorry.
With the opening of Matterhorn bobsleds at Disneyland. It was the world's first tubular steel roller coaster, and it revolutionized how coasters could be built. As Disneyland's success sparked the construction of large amusement parks across the United States, Aero found itself in high demand. In 1963, the company built El Asadero at Six Flags Over Texas, the world's first modern flume ride. It was so
Yo.
popular that the park added a second flume just 5 years later. In
Surprised you aren't a Disney adult.
1966, Aero debuted
I just don't like Disney. I don't know. I've never been into Disney like that, really, like ever. I like roller coasters. I want to go upside down and feel like my life is in danger. I like adrenaline rushes. Disney doesn't have enough of that, I feel like. The Bullwinkle log flume at Universal I absolutely hated as a kid. I didn't see that at Universal. Maybe it's gone. I don't really know much about Universal.
its first mine train
Disney isn't
coaster,
the thrill park.
Runaway
Yeah.
Mine Train, also at Six
Disney
Flags
is
Over
more like a
Texas.
family park, and I'm not
Soon,
into
Aero
that.
mine trains and
The
flume
coolest thing
rides
at
were
Disney that you can go visit is the abandoned water park that gave the kid brain-eating amoebas. I think that's probably the coolest and funnest thing you can do
appearing in
there.
parks all over the country. When Magic Mountain opened in 1971, Aero was there from day one, delivering Gold Rusher, an Aero mine train coaster, and Logjammer, the first of the park's two Aero flume rides. In 1975, Aero once again pushed coaster technology forward with Corkscrew at Knott's Berry Farm. the world's first modern looping roller coaster.
Tough.
Throughout the late 1970s and into the 1980s, Arrow
Tough.
continued building taller, faster, and more intense looping coasters at a time when advanced manufacturing techniques were not readily available. Thus, Arrow's track was still largely bent by hand, and even so, Arrow managed to define an entire era of thrill rides. However, the industry was starting to change. By the mid-1980s,
Oops, that falls.
computer-aided design and drafting and
I
more
didn't
precise
say that
manufacturing
either,
techniques
or
were
write that
becoming
either.
more widely available. These technologies unlocked smoother transitions, tighter tolerances, and entirely new ride possibilities. Other manufacturers began to embrace the shift, but Arrow did not. A clear turning point came in 1986 with the opening of Shockwave at Magic Mountain. Two of the engineers behind that ride would
That's
go on to
standing
form
coaster.
B&M the following year. By fully embracing
Looks like it, at least.
computer-aided design and drafting and more modern manufacturing methods,
Oh, that totally
B&M
looks like it.
quickly became the industry standard throughout the 1990s. Meanwhile,
B&M
Arrow continued
mentioned.
building coasters largely the same way they always had.
I like
to avoid
B&M.
making this video even longer than it already is,
Launch coasters
I
are
won't go
awesome.
too deep into Arrow's old school design philosophy. If you want a deeper breakdown, I cover this extensively in my videos on Loch Ness Monster and Drachenfire at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. But in
Tough.
short, by the early 1990s, B&M was delivering smooth, state-of-the-art coasters designed with CAD and manufactured using computer numerical control or CNC machining, while Arrow's massive steel coasters were still being designed and fabricated using decades-old methods. By the mid-1980s,
Like what?
Arrow should have modernized. Doing so would have positioned them
Pretty
far
true.
more competitively against emerging manufacturers.
Pretty true,
But
actually.
under the continued leadership of Ron Toomer, the company
Toomer?
grew complacent, relying on formulas that had worked in the past. Instead of reinvesting in modernization,
His name is Ron
Arrow
Toomer?
funneled research and development into experimental ride concepts that never found a market. One such project was Arrow's attempt at reviving the early 20th century Virginia
Guess how he died.
roller coaster. The concept
Oh,
appeared to place a spinning
I'm not
glide vehicle
sure.
on top of mine train chassis. A working prototype was even built, but practical issues, including misaligned cars during loading and unloading of riders,
Gulp.
prevented the ride from ever being sold. In 1989, Arrow began development of what would become one of its most infamous ideas, the pipeline coaster. The concept was to create a track and train system capable of maneuvers not possible with Arrow's traditional corkscrew trains. Instead of riding above or below the track, the train would sit between the rails. In practice, the design was deeply flawed. Riders' heads sat dangerously close to the wheels, creating serious safety concerns, such as a rider's hair becoming entangled in the wheel assemblies.
Oh
The
my gosh,
extremely low-riding
imagine.
Vehicles made loading and
Ugh.
unloading of riders very difficult.
Oh
To
my
make things
gosh,
worse,
imagine.
Manufacturers like B&M soon proved that the same maneuvers could be achieved using far more practical train designs.
That's so
Ultimately,
terrifying.
Arrow never sold a single pipeline coaster, and with every missed opportunity, the company drifted further from the cutting edge, setting the stage further for a final desperate gamble. And that gamble was, of course, X.
And it still didn't work because they're chuds.
As B&M rose to dominance and Arrow stopped winning major ride contracts, the company entered a new phase, one defined by reinvention. During the early to mid-1990s, a structural engineer
Oh,
named
my
Alan
headphones
Schilke
fell off my head.
began working with aerodynamics as a consultant. This would prove to be a turning point, as Alan would later go on to create the Fourth Dimension coaster and ultimately design X itself. Ironically, before consulting for Arrow, Alan had originally applied to work at Arrow as a junior engineer and was turned down. Instead, he took a position at a nearby structural engineering firm. At the time, Arrow did not perform its own structural engineering in-house, and for several upcoming projects, they contracted the very firm Alan worked for. Before long, Alan found himself serving as the lead structural engineer on both Pepsi Max Big One and Desperado, the two tallest roller coasters Arrow had ever built. Shortly afterward, Arrow hired Alan directly, appointing him director of engineering for the ride design department. But by then, Arrow was no longer the company it once was. Coaster sales had slowed down dramatically, and much of the firm's legacy talent had already moved on. Alan was tasked with modernizing Arrow's track design. Under his leadership, the company abandoned its long-standing tangent radius track design philosophy in favor of a far more advanced force vector approach. This shift allowed for smoother transitions, compounding curves, and custom-designed inversions. bringing Arrow's track geometry in line with modern standards. This new design language first appeared in 1996 with the opening of Roller Coaster at Winter Wonderland in Kuwait. While the trains
Also designs
were still
RMC
classic
coasters.
Arrow
Wait, actually?
corkscrew trains, the track itself was entirely different. Gone were the copy and paste inversions of earlier Arrow coasters, and in their place were smooth, custom designed, flowing elements. This refined style continued with Roadrunner Express at Six
But
Flags Fiesta
math
Texas,
is only cool when
and
you use it
Tennessee
for roller
Tornado at
coasters.
Dollywood, which is widely regarded
Dollywood
as one of Arrow's
mentioned!
smoothest and most modern roller coasters. Alongside these improvements, Arrow once
I
again
love
attempted to
Dollywood!
develop new ride models in the hopes of reestablishing itself in the modern market. Even
Roller
with the lack
Coaster
of new ride
Tycoon.
sales, the company was able to stay afloat largely thanks to
Missiles and race
replacement
cars.
parts.
I guess they can
As
stay.
hundreds of Arrow rides
I
were
guess
still
that's fine.
operating worldwide, but survival wasn't the company's goal. Arrow wanted a comeback. One of these new ride models actually found some success, the Arrow Mad Mouse. It was the company's take on
the
the
Wild
classic Wild Mouse
Mouse.
coaster, featuring an extremely overbuilt support structure that looked ready to survive a nuclear war. Arrow ultimately sold 4 of these rides. For a more intense experience, Arrow developed the Arrow
Like
Bag,
Wild Mouses.
a
I like
suspended
Wild Mouses too.
coaster
One of
where
my
riders
first
sat below the
coasters
track.
was a
This
Wild
model
Mouse.
also introduced Arrow's butterfly.
We do not need
harness
to be doing a
train,
stand-up
a
Wild
system
Mouse, though.
that
I
would
feel like
later
that's
be
just
used on
wrong.
X. Despite its more aggressive design style and unique ride maneuvers, the Aerobatic never found a buyer. Around the same time, Arrow revisited the Virginia Reel concept with a redesigned track system and improved vehicles that allowed for easier loading and unloading of riders. Unlike the original
Some of the
Virginia
spin-
Reels,
yeah.
this version would have used multi-car trains to increase capacity, but once again, no park took interest. Arrow also proposed the bodiless suspended coaster, which removed the enclosed car bodies on its earlier suspended designs, giving riders a far more open and exposed experience. It would have used an
sounds so
entirely
dope.
new track system and butterfly harnesses, but like so many other concepts, it never sold. Even as Arrow continued offering its legacy ride models, parks simply were not buying them. And this was with Arrow's newer designs being noticeably smoother than their older counterparts. However, a few years earlier in 1995, Alan Schilke developed another concept, the Fourth Dimension Coaster. Inspired by the Zipper, a classic carnival ride built by Chance Rides, Alan wanted
The Zipper
to
is
translate
so
the flipping
awesome.
motion of the Zipper into a full-scale roller coaster. Inside Arrow, the project was referred to as the Mystery Project. The biggest challenge with it, however, was controlling the seat rotation. An early idea involved using electric motors to rotate the seats based on the train's position along the track, but it becomes more dangerously complex when applied to vertical rotation, primarily due to moments of high positive g-forces, as every seat must be in the correct orientation, leaving no margin for error. Ultimately, the project was deemed too difficult to engineer, and far too nauseating for the average rider. Thus, Arrow abandoned the concept and shifted resources back to other projects such as the others I mentioned prior. But before it was shelved, the team created a simple 5-second animation showing a single car rolling down a straight piece of track and performing a backflip.
I am
The animation was
so
burned
interested
onto a
in this
CD
right now.
and
It sounds
placed
like I'm
in
not, but I
Alan Schilke's
am.
desk, where it would sit
I'm sorry that I'm
quietly
not
for
providing
years.
like shocking commentary or anything. I'm so tired, honestly. Can't believe it's only
What
been
the
an
Fourth
hour of me
Dimension coaster
streaming.
needed was someone willing to believe in it. That opportunity arrived in 1998 when Premier Parks acquired the Six Flags chain for $1.86 billion.
That's when Six Flags
now
started
under the
to suck
leadership
dick.
of CEO Kieran
I was there
Burke
personally.
and President Gary Story, Six Flags entered one of the most aggressive expansion phases in amusement park history. The company went on an almost unrestrained buying spree, acquiring park after park and flooding its properties with new attractions. Some parks received multiple large-scale roller coasters in a single year. In one extreme case, Six Flags Ohio, which you also likely know as Geauga Lake, opened 4 new roller coasters in the year 2000.
Bro, Geauga
alone.
Lake doesn't
Many
even
of the
exist
smaller
anymore.
parks Six Flags acquired were expanded far too quickly, becoming enormously expensive to operate relative to the attendance they attracted. But among all of Six Flags properties, Magic Mountain stood at the top. Fresh off the opening of Goliath in 2000, Magic Mountain was once again
Geauga
hunting for
Lake
its
doesn't
next
even
headline
exist
attraction.
anymore. It's
And
fucked
Gary
up.
Story wanted something that would keep the park firmly planted
Educational
at the
video, so
center of the
teaching,
coaster
it makes
world.
random
In
comments
May
during
of
the video.
2000,
But it's a cool
Aerodynamics managed to
educational
secure a meeting
video.
with Story, hoping
It's
to
like
sell
a
him
tough
new
educational
ride.
video that
Story
everybody's
did
trying to
not have enough
watch.
time to visit Arrow's facilities in Clearfield, Utah, but he did have time for a meeting at the Salt Lake City International Airport.
Oh my
so
gosh.
that's where it happened.
Do your
Alan
guys'
Chilkey
feet
and
ever
two
get
other
really
Arrow
hot?
engineers
My feet are
walked
so fucking
Story
hot
through the
right
ride
now.
concepts
That sounds
they
like I'm
thought
trying to
would
be like
interesting.
funny
But as
about it,
Alan
but
would
I'm
later
not.
recall, they showed
I don't
Gary
know.
the same old rides with tiny little twists.
Nothing good comes out of that
Story was
place.
unimpressed. He
Wrong!
already
Cedar
had
Point,
versions of these attractions
21
across his
Pilots,
parks. He
Jake
wanted
Paul.
something new. Unbeknownst to the rest of the team, Alan had something with him. The fourth
That's a lot of
dimension
good
coaster
things.
animation, still saved on that same CD, and it was sitting in his backpack. Not wanting the meeting to end in failure, Alan made a split-second decision and played the animation. To his surprise,
Yo.
Story was immediately intrigued. He asked a simple
Jake
question:
Paul, we're
"Can you
leaving."
actually
I
do
don't like
this?"
him, but I
Alan
like
answered
laughing at him.
confidently that they could.
Cool them down
Story
for you.
made
That's
his position
disgusting. I hope
clear.
you die.
He was interested, and he wanted to move
Two of those
forward
things
with
are
the fourth
mathematically
dimension
terrible.
coaster, but on one
Nuh-uh.
condition. Before he could go into contract for one, he needed to see a working prototype first. Arrow went straight to work. Designing the fourth dimension coaster
Might be the weather.
required an unprecedented amount of original
The heat wave
engineering.
is crazy.
Nothing about it resembled the conventional roller coaster. For the first time, riders would sit to the
Gloria to
sides
Ben
of the
Netty.
track rather than above
Ben
or
Netty.
below it. Early
Ben Netty. You
concepts
showing the cool
featured two
minecart
sets
coaster
of
I made in
seats
Minecraft.
cantilevered
Bro, I know we were
off
all
the
making
casting,
like
but the
crazy
track and
freaking rides in
rotation system were
Minecraft.
still
I
going through
was
iterations.
I was
In an
doing that.
earlier
I made
design,
some
the
crazy
guide
rides in
wheels sat on the
Minecraft.
outside of the running rails,
They
and a single
Aerodynamics
rotation
should have
rail
hired
ran down
me.
the
I would have
center of the
only
wide
been
gauge
like
track. That rail would then somehow
like
control
18
the
years old
rotation
when
of both
this
sets of seats
this
per
stuff was
car.
happening, but they should have
Instead,
hired
Arrow
me.
adopted a concept Alan had developed in late 1997 or early 1998. The new system used two additional rails, one on each side of the track. These would later become known as the X-rails. The X-rails ran parallel to the main running rails and independently controlled the rotation of
Imagine
each pair
having
of
long
seats.
hair.
To make this work, Arrow
Imagine getting
reverted
scalped
to a
on
more
a
legacy track
on a roller
configuration
coaster
with the
ride. I'm
guide
sure that's
wheels
happened
placed
to
on the
someone.
inside of the rails. They also dramatically
My hair has
narrowed
gotten
the
stuck in
track
roller
gauge and
coaster
placed
carts
the X-rails
before.
closer to the
It's hurt.
cantilevered seats. Now, this narrow track gauge would introduce future problems, but we'll talk about that later in the video. Each pair of seats was controlled by a wheel carrier that rode along the X-rail. Mounted to that carrier was a vertically oriented rack gear, roughly 4 feet tall. As the X-rail shifted closer to or farther from the running rails, it would move the position of the wheel carrier, which would thus move the rack gear up or down. This would spin a pinion gear connected to the seats. The result was
short
a
hair,
fully
maybe should grow your
mechanical,
hair out.
position-based system
Guys,
precisely controlled
how do you
seat
feel
rotation,
about
with
men
no
that have
motors
long hair?
required.
How
After
do we feel
countless
about that?
hours of design and fabrication,
Asking
Arrow
you guys
constructed a working
because
prototype
you're all
inside their
men.
hangar. It stood roughly 20 feet tall and featured
To
a
avoid
short
being
track
scalped.
layout with
True.
a 2-row train. The night before Gary's Story and the Six Flags team were scheduled to arrive, Alan and the rest of the team were still working until 4 a.m., prepping the prototype for the 8 a.m. demonstration. The demonstration wound up being a success. Gary's Story and members of the Six Flags team even wrote
Keep
the
telling me it
working
works, so I don't
prototype.
know. Fair enough.
Afterward, Story told Arrow that he was ready to move forward with a contract. Then came the brutal catch. The ride would be built at Six Flags Magic Mountain, and it could not be small. The ride's location had already been selected: the bus parking lot alongside the park's front entrance road. The new coaster would sit directly in front of Viper, and it had to be taller than Viper, which was already 188 feet tall. Arrow was completely stunned. The fourth dimension coaster was never intended to be built at that scale. The entire concept was based on the idea that
would you rather be
rotating
bald?
seats could deliver
I don't know,
extreme
but one
thrills
day
without requiring
I want to
extreme
shave
size. In fact,
my head and go
Arrow's
bald.
own
I think
promotional
it would be a
material
fun little
later showed
experiment.
multiple proposed 4D
I don't think
coaster
I would
layouts,
look good bald. I
and
think I
none
would
of
probably
them
have a
were
huge
anywhere
dent.
near
But
X's
I think
scale.
everyone
The
should go
tallest
bald once in their
concept was
life.
just 127 feet tall. Under normal circumstances, Arrow should have walked away. But Arrow was not in a position to say no. They needed the sale. The company wanted to become relevant again, and building a full-scale 4D
Comments of women
coaster
saying how
could
jealous
attract
it looks.
future clients. So
I always
Arrow
get
accepted the project, and the company
I always get people complimenting my hair. They're always like, Luciano, it's so long. How do you take care of it? It's so long. But I've come to realize something. They always compliment my hair, and they never compliment anything else about me. It's nuts. They always compliment your hair. But they never say anything else about you. They never say that you're pretty. They never say that I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but that's what it always feels like.
Fate was sealed. Six
cool
Flags,
eyebrows.
however,
Hey, thank
shares
you.
the blame in Arrow's bankruptcy, as they showed little hesitation in ordering another massive, unproven prototype roller
Cancer
coaster.
Kid's house
The
makes fun of
company
just
had
before making
already
his
been
correct final
burned when they ordered
diagnosis
4
true.
prototype launching shuttle coasters that all opened a year late. A far safer approach would have been to build a smaller 4D coaster first, refine the design and fix any issues, and only then scale it up. Just like how Accelerator at Knott's Berry Farm served as the stepping stone toward Top Thrill Dragster at Cedar Point. But Six Flags did
Top
not
Thrill
want a
Dragster
stepping stone. They
mentioned.
wanted the biggest version possible immediately. And as we'll discuss later, Six Flags may have had their reasons for doing so. Ultimately, the decision would forever change aerodynamics.
Goodbye, aerodynamics. No more aerodynamics.
Arrow got to work designing what would become X, a project that may have well been the most difficult in the company's history. By December of 2000, the team had reportedly logged more than 22,000 hours of design work, roughly
Holy
3
shit.
times the effort typically required to design
That's
a
like
skyscraper.
1%
As
of the
a first
time
its
that I
kind roller
have in
coaster, X
Femboy
presented
Furry
an
Cafe
endless
on
list of
Steam.
unprecedented engineering challenges. And
That's
to make
a-
matters
that's-
worse, Six
wow.
Flags demanded that the ride be designed and constructed on an extremely aggressive timeline. Despite the pressure, Arrow completed the design. And on December 19th, 2000, Magic Mountain announced the park's largest expansion up until that point. At a cost of $30 million,
Holy
3 new roller
guacamole.
coasters were scheduled
3?
to open in the spring of 2000.
That's a lot.
This would raise Magic Mountain's coaster count to 15, giving it the largest roller coaster collection of any park in the world. The park even rebranded itself as the Extreme Park. The
That's
smallest of
insane.
the 3 additions would be Goliath Jr., a revival of Magic Mountain's original kiddie coaster, which had been dismantled and stored since 1999. The second largest would be Deja Vu, a massive
Ooh.
first-of-its-kind giant inverted boomerang built by Dutch manufacturer
What?
Tacoma.
An
Deja Vu
inverted
was an
boomerang?
unproven prototype roller coaster. And in classic Six Flags fashion of that era, the company did not stop at one Deja Vu.
I wasn't
In
know that they-
2001,
I didn't know
Six
that they
Flags
could make
debuted
inverted
3 identical
boomerangs.
installations, with one at Magic Mountain, another at Six Flags Over Georgia, and the third at Six Flags Great
Extreme
America.
era of media.
This
I also
decision
miss
would
the
have
extreme
serious
era of media.
consequences. And as I mentioned
It's
earlier,
awesome.
it was not the first time Six Flags had gambled on multiple unproven prototypes at the same time.
I
But
didn't
the
know
true
Vekoma could
centerpiece
make
of the
anything other
Extreme
than the-
Park was X,
the boomerang.
the world's first fourth dimension roller coaster. Painted in a bold pink and yellow color scheme, X would loom over the park's front entrance road with a menacing 215-foot, nearly vertical first drop. Its rotating seats promised a ride experience unlike anything else on Earth. At the announcement event, Magic Mountain even displayed an X car on site, likely the original
Tough.
Arrow prototype vehicle, but dressed up for the occasion. The
Tough.
production trains would ultimately look very different. X was originally announced for a spring 2000
Joe the Femboy Cafe?
and
No,
site
I wish I
preparation
did.
began as early as November of 2000. But as construction progressed, it quickly became clear that this timeline was wildly optimistic. Excavation for the ride's massive foundations did not begin until early March of 2001. And this foundation work alone stretched through the end of
Why'd
that
you even
month.
go?
Because of the extreme weight
Oh,
of the
you know,
vehicles,
it's like,
a number of the
look
ride's
at,
foundations reportedly extended as deep as 80
Nothing
feet
important,
into
I
the ground.
guess.
In May of 2001, X finally went vertical, with track and supports rising for the 2 stations and lift hill. One unusual detail immediately stood out. The station tracks themselves lacked X-rails, and only featured the 2 main running rails. A short segment of X-rail existed between the stations, but nowhere else within them. As we'll discuss later, this
curious.
design decision would severely impact operations and cripple dispatch times. Unlike many of
Ooh.
Arrow's more recent projects, X
L.
was fabricated entirely in-house. In the mid-1990s, Arrow had revived internal fabrication
BL
after
Basement Store, I
decades
did
of
not,
outsourcing,
'cause I wasn't in
producing all
Tokyo
the
for a
track
very
and
long
supports
time.
for Tennessee Tornado at
I was in
Tacoma.
Tokyo
The
for
goal was to
maybe
regain
3 out of
control over
the
schedules and quality,
4
and I'm sure it
days out
also
of
reduced the
whatever.
cost of
Is the
producing
Twitch
the
chat
rides,
working?
bringing
Yeah,
down
there's
the
just nobody
overall
in there.
price tag of the attraction and making the rides more obtainable to amusement parks. But X
Oh,
was nothing like Tennessee
sorry,
Tornado.
Twitch chat,
Because of the ride's
Lucas.
prototype nature, Arrow
Alright.
had to completely retool its fabrication shop to manufacture X's massive track, supports, and unprecedented train system. This retooling was enormously expensive, and likely one of the primary reasons Arrow would ultimately lose millions delivering the ride. Six Flags almost certainly paid Arrow in installments, with a substantial amount of payment withheld until final delivery. This meant Arrow was fronting enormous
Need to refresh it
overhead
on the
costs
stream, I
while
think,
still
but
actively fabricating the ride.
all
Although
I
the
see after
company
the
had
stream like
additional
that was the
revenue
message you
streams,
knew.
including a reported
No, I have the
$750,000 profit for the 2002 Winter Olympics cauldron. Those earnings paled in comparison to the scale of X. Arrow's original estimate to design, fabricate, and construct X was reportedly $14 million. The final cost allegedly ballooned to over $45 million. This massive cost discrepancy was likely due to many reasons, such as Arrow greatly underestimating the research and development costs, the cost of retooling their fabrication shop, the massive steel requirements of the ride, and an aggressive construction schedule that spiraled out of control. X alone used over 2.7 million pounds of steel in its track and structure. This is roughly twice the amount of steel used to create Goliath, which is a taller and longer roller coaster than X. And as delays mounted, cost climbed even further as crews worked around the clock correcting emerging issues. To make matters worse, Six Flags allegedly withheld a significant payment until X could operate reliably. There's also evidence that Arrow may have intentionally underbid the project, hoping future 4D coaster sales would offset the loss. Arrow's financial stability was
in Twitch, but I got here with the mini movies, and I'm not gonna sit through that while work. Fair enough.
750-foot-tall fishhook coaster planned for the Stratosphere in Las Vegas. When that project was rejected due to its proximity to residential areas,
they gotta stop
financial lifeline
inventing
vanished.
stand-up
By December
coasters.
2001, after losing millions on X and failing to secure the Stratosphere project, Aerodynamics filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. During reorganization, the company permanently ended its in-house fabrication. However, according to Tim Burkhart, then Six Flags Vice President of Maintenance and Construction, Arrow's financial troubles may have become apparent much earlier. Burkhart stated that Arrow halted fabrication of X mid-project due to its financial issues, leaving Six Flags with no choice but to step in and complete fabrication of the ride themselves. By that point, X was far too along to abandon. Despite the turmoil behind the scenes, construction continued at a steady pace. By mid-June of 2001, X reached its full height, rivaling its neighbor Viper. By the end of June, the massive first drop was complete. By mid-July, the first Raven turn rose into place, followed by the fan curve supports. At the end of July, the final track segment leading into the final brake run was installed, completing vertical construction. To save time, crews had already began the pull-through test prior to track completion with just 2 rows of a train to verify clearances and ensure seat rotation occurred as designed. The ride's terrain played a crucial role in its design. The ground rises beneath the lift hill, allowing the stations, maintenance tracks, and half the brake run to sit closer to ground level. As a result, with just a 175-foot tall lift hill, the ride delivers a 215-foot first drop. On August 10th, 2001, at approximately 9:45 p.m., X completed its first full test cycle. The massive train successfully navigated the entire layout and came to a stop on the final brake run. Over the following days, X was cycled repeatedly in the daytime while the park remained open, giving guests a clear view of the enormous 20-foot wide trains racing through the layout. Early test runs were fast, significantly faster than the ride operates today on average. Speeds were high enough that magnetic trim brakes were installed leading into the second Raven turn, followed shortly by additional trims at the base of the first drop. X had been manufactured with 3 locations ready to receive trim brakes. The third location was at the base of the valley between the first Raven turn and Camelback Hill. The ride would eventually open without any of these trims installed, and we'll discuss this in more detail later in the video.
No trims.
You can also see in this early testing footage that the lift hill was
trims are evil and
However,
Jewish.
This high speed would not last.
Designed by Benjamin Netanyahu to diminish fun.
The ride was finally testing. Many issues were already visible. The seat rotation appeared rough and jerky. Even from a distance,
Israeli.
The seats could be seen rocking back and forth as they rotated, and they would even wobble on the brake run when there wasn't any rotation occurring. By this point, X had already missed its spring opening, and hopes for a summer debut were fading. By early September, the queue and station buildings appeared complete, but no opening date had been announced. Behind the scenes, there were simply too many problems that remained unresolved. Meanwhile, Deja Vu opened on August 25th, 2001, despite battling serious issues of its own. At X, they were just getting started.
This bitch still ain't even open.
X's trains were already monsters by design, Each train had a design weight of roughly 50,000 pounds. For comparison,
50,000
each of Goliath's
pounds.
trains weigh less than half of that at roughly 18,000 pounds. But when X's trains finally arrived at Magic Mountain, they were significantly heavier than their intended design weight, and the fixes required to make them work only pushed that number higher. The trains were originally designed to use forged steel wheels, but the excess weight quickly made that impractical. Arrow was forced to switch to stronger cast wheels, which were heavier themselves, further compounding the problem. And because X rides above and below the track, it requires 2 sets of large road wheels, with one above
That's
the
severe,
rail
not
and
digital.
one
I was gonna say I
below
want
the
my
rail.
money back.
Each
Same.
of X's trains used 64 of these large road wheels, meaning all 64
I've never thrown up on a roller
suddenly
coaster
became
before.
heavier. On top of that, the trains were vibrating far
I don't think
more
I've
than
ever been
expected.
nauseous
Components
from
throughout the vehicle
any type
were
of ride like
experiencing
that.
vibration levels well beyond their design limits, forcing crews to rebuild and reinforce large portions of the train. And each reinforcement added more weight to the trains. The most complex modification was the addition of a suspension system between the cantilevered seats and the main chassis. Originally, the trains had no suspension at all. That might sound shocking, but the problem became
No
obvious
suspension.
once testing began. X's running rails are spaced just 3.5 feet apart, yet the trains stretch a staggering 20 feet wide. If you recall the earlier 4D coaster concept, it originally featured a much wider gauge between the running rails, but when Arrow transitioned from a 3-rail to a 4-rail system, the X rails took over that wide spacing at 6 feet 4 inches,
Holy
forcing the
shit.
running rails to move significantly closer together. This left the wheel assemblies that carried
That's
the
the
full weight
video.
of the
Thank
train
you.
positioned far too close to one another relative to the massive width of the vehicle.
You can contribute to your very own message on my stream if you go to www.twitch.tv/AngelaRayonnaut and type in the chat
Adding the
there.
suspension system helped, but once again,
You
it
can
likely
type your
came
very
at
own
the
test
cost of more
message.
weight. According to Alan Schilke, the suspension allowed for up to 5 inches of vertical travel on the outside seats. You can actually see it working with the seats visibly sagging downward during moments of high positive G-forces. Years later, Schilke would admit that X never rode as smoothly as the ride was designed to be. He explained that tubular steel can never
Usable
be bent to
input. Thank
absolute
you.
perfection, meaning the ride's design does not
Good
translate
comment.
perfectly to the final product. And in X's case, that limitation was especially critical. While the main running rails sounded glass smooth during testing, and they still
She
do
sounds
to this
just
day,
as beautiful
the
as the
X
day I
rails
first met
demand
her.
far greater precision since they directly control seat rotation. Even the slightest imperfections in these rails can throw off the timing or motion, causing the seats to jerk and oscillate as they rotate. Meanwhile, the same imperfections likely go completely unnoticed on standard running rails, and this is likely made worse by the small gear ratio used in the rack and pinion gears that control X's seat rotation. Because the X-rail can only move up and down within a limited range on the track, the gearing has to translate small movements of the X-rail into large rotations of the seats. But this also means the slightest change in position or imperfection in the X-rail will become noticeable as it will translate to unwanted rotation of the seats. In many ways, the work being done on X was reactionary, similar to what Arrow experienced when building Magnum XL 200 back in 1989. But this time, the stakes were much higher. X was engineered using far more advanced tools and modern design methods. The issue was not outdated technology, the concept itself was simply that extreme. X was an enormously complex prototype, and it was too large to debut something this experimental at full scale. Throughout testing, X's trains were constantly being taken apart and reassembled. Decorative fiberglass
Lovely.
panels were removed to expose the chassis. Sections of seatbacks disappeared as crews adjusted the restraint system. Entire sets of cantilevered seats were removed from the trains altogether. Every component was under scrutiny, and every change was an attempt to make these oversized, overweight vehicles function
Speech up with a
reliably.
big flash.
It's my observation that during
Bada
this
bada bada
process,
ding
another
da.
significant change
Hello
was made
there.
to the
Hi.
vehicles to address the challenges created by their massive width and the narrow gauge of the track. Wide-body coaster trains are common today and even existed back then, but X's cantilevered
What the
rotating
fuck was that
seats
thing?
introduced tremendous challenges. On a B&M dive coaster, the wide trains are better supported because the 2 wheel carriers of each car are designed to support the vehicle chassis directly above them. In addition, wider track is used to match the broader trains, creating support points spaced farther apart. This wider stance helps stabilize the vehicle and
Question
provides
for you.
more consistent
If a
structural
male
support
woman
across
pretends
the
to be a
chassis.
mailman,
When
is that
X's
considered
trains
mail
first
fraud?
arrived, however,
That's a great question. I'm thinking yes. And I think that for mail fraud, you should probably shoot them to death. No mercy.
the roughly 20-foot wide vehicle was supported only at the center of each car by narrowly spaced wheel carriers. Even worse, these wheel carriers did not directly support the chassis above them.
Actually, hold on. I'm gonna leave this video play really quickly, but I'm gonna go get a bottle of water because I am so thirsty. 1 second.
In fact, there was a noticeable gap between the top of each wheel assembly and the underside of the vehicle chassis, meaning there was no direct linkage between the two. Instead, a structure spanning between the wheel carriers supported the vehicle from the middle. This configuration left a large portion of the train extending outward on both sides without direct support. As a result, the outer portions of the vehicle were likely subjected to significant vibration, while also experiencing substantial stress and strain during operation. Work quickly began to address this issue, and a new support system was implemented between each wheel carrier and the chassis above it. On the original chassis, the large gray beam running between each pair of seats was smooth. Following the modifications, 4 bolts became visible above each wheel carrier, indicating where the new support structure was, connecting the wheel carriers directly to the chassis. While this change still left a considerable span of the vehicle unsupported toward both edges, it still increased the amount of the train that was structurally supported. This likely helped reduce vibration, improve stability, and lessened the extreme forces acting on the outer portions of the vehicles. However, the modification came at a cost. It added even more weight to the trains that were already notoriously overweight. While engineers struggled with the trains, other construction work continued around the ride. In late September of 2001, irrigation channels were constructed beneath the coaster. In October, large concrete pads were poured in low-lying areas, including the base of the first drop and the bottom of the second Raven turn. And finally, around mid-December, something remarkable happened. 2 of X's trains were spotted fully assembled, no longer in pieces. For the first time, it appeared that the endless list of modifications
I got
was
crab
complete,
rangoon.
and with that, word began to spread that Magic Mountain was preparing to open X. Even with the delay in opening X, when you consider the vast number of changes made to get the ride operating, it's seriously commendable that the team delivered on those challenges that quickly, as other new coasters have been delayed for even longer by seemingly less challenging issues to address.
Water becoming so crunchy.
On December 24th, 2001, Christmas Eve, that finally happened. X soft opened to season pass holders. Coaster fans who had followed the project's construction finally got their first rides, and the initial reactions were overwhelmingly positive. Riders described the experience as intense, disorienting, and completely unlike anything else on Earth. Even skeptics who thought the layout looked too short or underwhelming came away shocked by how relentless and non-stop the experience felt. And during the soft opening, there was one rare luxury: short wait times. X would soon become infamous for brutal multi-hour lines, but during the soft opening, season pass holders could ride it multiple times a day with little to no waiting. Something that would never really exist again during X's tenure. The experience begins with riders leaving the station backwards, riding above the track. A small dip exiting the station leads into a left-hand turnaround into the lift hill. As the train engages the lift, the seats rotate, placing riders flat on their backs. Then, as the train begins its climb, the seats rotate again, bringing riders upright, giving a breathtaking view of Six Flags Magic Mountain. At the crest of the 175-foot lift, the train dips into a small pre-drop. As it rises again, the seats rotate forward, placing riders face down.
If you know how horribly maintained they were, you never want to ride it one ever again. Can you say where you worked? Was it like a major chain, or was it like a family park? Because, I mean, honestly, carnivals, I would believe you, but if it was like a major chain like Six Flags or Cedar Fair or something, I would not believe you. Is that bad of me to say? Okay. Carnivals are different. I totally believe you when you're saying carnivals are unsafe. Because you have to like constantly take them apart and whatever. So.
Careens down the 215-foot skydive drop, pitched at a near vertical 88.6 degrees. The seats leave riders still facing the ground, and as the pullout approaches, the seats execute a front flip, snapping riders upright just
That's
as the
awesome.
train bottoms out at 76 miles per hour.
That's so
the train
sick.
charges up until the first Raven turn, which starts as a gigantic half loop. Instead of flipping riders upside down, the seats rotate gradually, keeping riders upright as the track inverts around them. Suddenly, riders are riding below the track facing forward. If you were in the front car, the rest of the train suddenly
I'm doing
disappears
Doritos.
in front of you. And if
Water
you were
and
in
crab
the back
rangoon.
car, the rest of the train
Yoo-hoo.
suddenly becomes in front of you. The half loop transitions into a massive parabolic
I'm so
drop.
dehydrated.
As the train descends, the seats rotate again, placing riders into a flying position, before snapping upright just before the pullout, delivering a great pop of airtime. The train races through another tight valley as it flies through a series of dense supports with riders' feet nearly touching the ground. The train
Whoa, that's
climbs
scary.
into an airtime hill where the seats perform a backflip, leaving riders weightless through the entire maneuver. The track passes high above the station, then rises into the luge turn, a slower, more drawn-out moment with no seat rotation, where riders remain facing forward beneath the track. The pacing then surges again as the train drops back to ground. The train quickly unbanks, delivering a great
Liquid
pop
IV.
of airtime due to the wide body.
I actually had a
frames.
thing of Liquid
The
IV
train
today.
races
It
through
was
low
watermelon
dense
flavored.
supports as it enters the twisting flip. The track rolls from inverted to
Ugh,
upright while
that's so
the seats
scary.
rotate through a half front flip, delivering airtime in the process. The twisting flip leaves riders traveling backwards above the track as they
that looks
exit
so
the element.
disorienting,
Next
but
comes the
amazing.
ride's most intense moment, the second Raven turn. It begins like an airtime hill, but the seats rotate forward, putting riders in a flying position.
Wow,
At the
that's so
crest,
awesome.
The track curves left and dives into a tight half loop that plummets back to Earth. Through the loop, the seats rotate again to keep riders upright as they blast through another very low to the ground valley. The train rises into another twisting flip. The track rolls upright and the seats rotate through a half backflip, and riders once again find themselves traveling backwards above the track as the train is slowed
That's
by
so
the magnetic
sick.
brake system. Notably, X
Gosh, that's
uses
so
both
sick.
magnetic and friction brakes, with the two systems sitting parallel to each other, so two separate brake fins are mounted beneath each car, adding even more weight to the already massive trains. What's fascinating is how
I know,
the
but
seat
seeing the dirt
rotation
kicked up was
system
sick,
reshapes
wasn't
the
it?
entire
It's
layout.
like seeing
On
water
paper,
go up
X is
around you. It's so
surprisingly
awesome.
simple with not many hills compared to the size of the first drop. Nitro at Six Flags Great Adventure also has a 215-foot first drop, but has a much longer track length at 5,394 feet, compared to X's track length at 3,610 feet. Thus, X is strikingly short in length compared to other rides of similar height and speed. That's because the wide-body vehicles create significantly more air resistance, and the additional wheel assemblies riding the X-rails add friction. The seat rotation system likely drains kinetic energy also, as forward momentum is partially converted into rotational energy to spin the seats.
This is so
even
tough.
with the incredibly heavy
Guys,
trains,
am I
all
crazy
those
for saying that
factors
this
are
is
likely
tough?
why the second Raven turn is dramatically shorter than the first one, even if there's only 3 hills between the
Am
two
I
Raven
crazy
turns,
for
as there are
saying
more
that? Oh my
variables
god,
that slow
this.
down the
Oh my
trains
god, we're only
compared
an
to a more
hour
typical
in.
roller coaster.
The
Going back
accident.
to X's soft opening, the most surreal part of it was that it was not just a preview. The ride was still ongoing heavy modifications while it operated with guests. On December 24th, 2001, mechanics were actively working on one of the 2 operational trains each time it
That's
returned
terrifying.
to the station. This train was cycled empty for hours as this work continued. X also features station gates that
X is
raise
saving
between each row
grace.
of the train to prevent riders from climbing onto the track.
Wait,
During the soft opening,
I'm gonna
the
skip
gates
to the
were
accident
commonly
in a
not
second
raised or
here.
lower, and crews worked on them in real
The stranger
time as guests
restraints was
continued
talking
riding
about the
coaster.
butterfly
The
restraints, I
mechanically
believe.
driven restraints were frequently jamming and failing to unlock when trains
Right.
returned to the unload station.
Which is a little
Alan Schilke
scary.
was reportedly present and personally assisted in releasing many guests who got stuck in the trains. X also features a seat rotation system in the station,
Man.
which rotates the seats upright for unloading and loading, and rotates them back for motion. While the system was commonly malfunctioning, and sets of
That's
seats
terrifying.
would fail to rotate, forcing mechanics and ride operators to physically push and shake the seats to get the actuator to move.
All right, and I think that's it. We're skipping to the accident. We don't need to know about the block zones. Sorry, El
The
Toro
operational
Ryan.
situation at X remained bleak. Even though the ride had finally opened, bringing an end to months of delays, Arrow was allegedly pressured into handing the attraction over to Magic Mountain earlier than they would have preferred. And as we'll discuss shortly, once that handoff occurred, Arrow may have no longer been in a position to meaningfully assist Magic Mountain in resolving the ride's growing list of problems.
What happened?
With the ride vehicles being so severely overweight, the trains were tedious to maintain
Haha,
and
obese
required
freaking
an
ride.
extraordinary amount of time and replacement parts to keep operational.
Imagine
This
that
was a
your
major
ride is
reason why
obese
X most
AF.
often ran with just one of its 3 trains in service. It's also alleged that Magic Mountain continued making modifications to the trains on their own in an effort to improve reliability, as the trains were struggling under their excess weight. However, some of these changes may have only introduced new issues, further complicating an already fragile system. As a result, X continued operating with staggeringly slow dispatches and 4-hour queues well into June.
4
And on June 12,
hours?
2002,
Oh, hell
Magic
no.
Mountain abruptly announced that X would be closed indefinitely due to design issues. The timing was jarring,
Oh,
coming just days
hell
before
no.
the start of the busy summer season. A few nights earlier, an alleged incident had occurred on X after the park had closed for the night. As was typical at the time, X's queue stretched on for hours, and the ride continued operating late into the night as it slowly worked its way through the remaining line. To understand what happened, it's important to revisit just how heavy and complex X's trains really were. A significant portion of that weight came from the seat support system required for each pair of cantilevered seats. Each pair was supported by 2 large cylindrical beams known as pickle forks. One pickle fork sat
fork,
behind
that's a
the
funny
headrests,
name, I
while
like
the other
that.
was positioned beneath the seat bottoms. These pickle forks were welded to a large steel assembly that connected them to the seat rotation mechanism. Together, this structure provided the primary support for each pair of seats. Note that the entire seat support system was originally painted purple. This will be important later in the video. On that night in early June of 2002, when a train completed the circuit, something was immediately wrong. One of the outside seats near the back of the train was visibly out of position, noticeably leaning to the side.
That's
Allegedly,
scary.
the seat support system for that set of seats had failed in some way during the ride cycle. Even more concerning, the rider occupying that outside seat had reportedly completed an unknown portion of the layout with their seat in this incorrect position. Thankfully, the rider was not injured. Magic Mountain shut down X immediately for the night and began clearing the still lengthy queue of guests waiting to ride. Some of these guests had already waited 4 hours or more and were just moments away from boarding, only to have that time completely wasted. I can only imagine how outraged some of these people were. However, this was 2002. Smartphones did not exist, and no one had a pocket-sized 4K camera with instant access to social media.
Thank God.
As a result, word of the incident barely spread at all. Compounding that, the damaged seat was located near the back of the train, so guests waiting at the load platform were unable to see the damaged seat. Had this incident occurred today, it almost certainly would have gone viral within hours and dominated headlines. Instead, it largely slipped under the radar. A 28-year-old woman had tragically died after riding Goliath just a year earlier on June 2nd, 2001. While the incident was ultimately attributed to pre-existing medical conditions, Magic Mountain was still dealing with the public backlash of that.
That's the thing. A lot of people die on roller coasters, and they're not supposed to be on roller coasters because they have, like, health conditions. Like, one chick died on the voyage of a heart attack. Now, obviously, that's not her fault, you know, she didn't decide to go into cardiac arrest, but also, if you feel like you can't do something, maybe don't do it. You know what I mean?
What further damage might have been done to the park's reputation had X's incident also broken into mainstream news at the time?
I wouldn't necessarily say that
Shortly after
roller
the shutdown,
coasters are very
on June
ADA
18th,
friendly.
2002, X was spotted testing again as work
Hi,
began.
thank you for the $5 right across. Are we getting lutarded in here? Let's get lutarded. We are getting lutarded. Not actually. Just kind of chilling,
Corrective
honestly.
issues with the trains. Notably, at this point, the seat support system was still painted purple. However, behind the scenes, the situation surrounding X and aerodynamics may have been far more dramatic. As discussed earlier, Aero had filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in December of 2001, and the prolonged delays and operational failures of X played a significant role in pushing the company to that point. Compounding matters further, Six Flags had entered into multiple arbitration claims against Aero totaling roughly $5.8 million.
Holy
From
guac.
what I understand, a potential final nail in the coffin may have been Six Flags withholding the final payment for X, citing that the payment would only be made once X could operate reliably. And from
That's
what I
genuinely
understand,
crazy.
this final payment was never made. So as a result of X's ongoing issues, Aero never received the final payment for the ride on top of Magic Mountain's $5.8 million of claims for the project. Reflecting to earlier in the video where we discussed Six Flags buying so many unproven experimental rides, this may have been their tactic. The company may have expected these prototype attractions to not work correctly, requiring months of delays and many modifications. And as a result, Six Flags would never have to fully pay for these rides, as they would cite discontent with the ride's reliability. This
That's so
practice was
scummy, but I
likely at
believe that
play
they
when
would do
Six
that.
Flags purchased X,
Six Flags
the
is kind of
3 Deja Vu
evil.
coasters, and many more attractions. And in a way, it makes sense, as Six Flags had purchased so many parks at this point, and were now pumping their long list of properties with attraction after attraction. So the company may have used a practice like this so that they could keep up with their unhinged expansion. With X allegedly handed off to Magic Mountain earlier than Aero would have preferred, the park suddenly assumed much of the responsibility for maintaining and correcting the ride's ongoing issues. The scope of those problems and the pressure to resolve them appears to have been overwhelming. By May of 2002, multiple parties were submitting bids to purchase Aero and its remaining assets. Somewhat surprisingly, Six Flags was among them. However,
Of course Six
did
Flags
not
was
look
among
to
them.
purchase Aero itself, but only its assets related specifically to the 4D coaster for just $10,000.
Oh my
along with
God.
the promise to discharge the $5.8 million
L.
in claims they had filed against the company.
Not
Aero's
surprised it didn't
president,
hold up.
Fred
Yeah.
Bolingbroke, strongly objected to the proposal.
It makes sense.
The prevailing theory is that Six Flags was desperately searching for a more permanent solution to X's train issues, but needed access to Aero's proprietary 4D coaster assets, either to resolve the problems internally or to bring in another ride manufacturer to do so. Ultimately, the offer from Six Flags, along with several others, was rejected by Aero's unsecured creditors committee. As many coaster enthusiasts know, in October of 2002, S&S, another Utah-based ride manufacturer, successfully
Mormons.
acquired Aero
The
and its
Mormons.
assets. Fortunately, before that acquisition took place, the necessary modifications to X's
Utah's
trains
kind
were
of like a
completed,
free
and the
state
ride
where you can
officially
do whatever you want. Utah doesn't feel real to me. Utah feels like a U.S. territory rather than an actual, like, state.
reopened on August 13th, 2002. While it's unclear exactly what parties completed the repairs, it was likely a collaborative effort between Aero and Six Flags engineers. One immediately noticeable change was the seat support structure. The pickle forks and the large steel assemblies were no longer painted purple, and instead matched the gray color of the main chassis above the track. It's my understanding that the seat support structures were entirely replaced with stronger components, and the joints between the pickle forks and steel assemblies were significantly
Smartest thing you've ever
reinforced.
said.
The removal of
Dude,
the
I say a
purple
lot of
paint
smart
may have also
things.
been intentional, as it likely made inspections easier and may have prevented paint from masking early signs of metal fatigue. I also believe that during this round of modifications, the mysterious second arms beneath the seats were removed entirely from all trains. From this point forward, only the primary lever arms with white roller wheels remain. Around the same time, Magic Mountain installed a support structure for a canopy along the pathway leading to X's Cube. A very practical addition given how frequently the line extended far beyond the ride's actual entrance. X
That's
was now back
crazy.
in operation. However, with these reinforcements in place, it's reasonable to assume that the trains became even heavier than before. Reports indicate that the lift
Not
speed
good.
was reduced further. And this is likely when the timing from when a train dispatched from the station to when it disengaged the lift became 80 seconds.
Okay.
Fortunately, one of X's
I know it
greatest
turns into
design strengths
X2.
avoided any further problems. As we've already discussed, the trains were delivered to Magic Mountain well beyond their intended design weight. And as
We just skipped to, like,
modifications were
X2.
introduced to address the ride's many
I
mechanical
don't know,
issues, the vehicles
more of this video I can watch on stream especially. This is a very good watch in the background video, but I'm not sure if it makes like the best possible coaster video. Yeah, it got turned into something called X2. It's like a revamp of the ride or whatever. I know y'all are trying to watch a Defunct Land video with me. I know! We're all trying to watch a Defunct Land video. Guys, have you seen this one? Tired of you, I'm sleepy. Two times Minecraft parkour video. That's so smart. I should do that. Guys, I grew up in this area.
In December of 1991, the television news program 60 Minutes aired a story named The Sound of Music, which highlighted the unexpected tourism boom that was occurring in Branson, Missouri. The small resort town in the Ozark Mountains was experiencing a rise in popularity.
Have you guys ever
thanks
been
a
to
thriving
Branson,
country music
Missouri? Oh, sorry. I hit my mic. Sorry. I hit it. My bad. Sorry. Unintentional Luciano beating her microphone over the head. Sorry. I'm sorry. My ears burn. I'm sorry. Well, at least you're awake now. Hi. I used to live over here. I used to live in southwest Missouri. Kind of somewhere deep over there. And yeah, I mean, it was worse than usual. I'm sorry. Yeah, so
scene. Some of the genre's biggest stars, such as Loretta Lynn, Mel Tillis, Roy Clark, and Waylon Jennings, had
put a
taken
little
up
gasket
residency
ring in
in
the plug
Branson, with many acts
socket.
even building their own
I don't want to do
theaters.
that right now,
The
though.
60 Minutes report dubbed it the live country music capital of the universe, while others referred to it as the Las Vegas of the Midwest, the
That's
Christian
pretty
Las
true.
Vegas, and even Hillbilly Heaven.
Yep,
Hillbilly heaven without the halos and wings.
that sounds about right.
I heard a number, 6 million in 6 months.
That's
Branson,
pretty
your
close.
Six Flags.
But you have to work 2
Branson
shows a
is
day and
more
sign
like
autographs.
I mean, it's more like the Las Vegas of the Midwest. It's a much more apt description because it's like an entire city. The entire city is the attraction. Like in the Midwest, I feel like there's 2 places you go for vacation. That's 3 places. I'm sorry. There's 3 places that you go to as your preferred vacation destination among others, right? And I feel like one of those is your preferred lake of choice. Your family specifically has a lake that they go to. Branson, Missouri, or Wisconsin Dells.
The small town's
That's where
ascent
you
into
go.
a top tourist destination was certainly surprising. The 60 Minutes report went as far as to say that, quote, no one knows why Branson became such an entertainment hotspot. While the heights of Branson's success might have been unforeseen by many, it was not entirely random either. The seeds to Branson's boom had been planted nearly a century prior. In 1907, author Harold Bell Wright penned the novel The Shepherd of the Hills, which was set in the fictional Ozark mountain town of Mutton Hollow and partially based on Wright's trips to Branson. The book became one of the best-selling novels in American history up to that point, and naturally, many readers were compelled
The
to
Ozarks
visit
are
the book's
very
setting,
pretty.
the environment, and
The Ozarks genuinely may be one of my favorite places on earth.
culture detailed in Wright's novel was the main draw of Branson in the early 20th century. The area already featured a few attractions, most notably Marble Cave, one of the largest caves in Missouri. Marble Cave would eventually be renamed to Marvel Cave. And in 1950, Chicago vacuum cleaner salesman Hugo Herschend purchased a 99-year lease to the cave and planned to develop it in order to make it easier to tour. Hugo would pass just 5 years into the 99-year lease, leaving the remaining 94 years to his wife and sons. The Herschend family continued to make improvements inside the cave and soon outside of it, with the construction of several shops and eateries on the land directly outside of the cave's entrance. These facilities were themed to appear as a 19th century mining town, a reference to the actual mining town that had once existed outside of the cave but had been burned down by a group of local vigilantes known as the Bald Knobbers. The new themed area would be named Silver Dollar City, which officially opened
Silver
on May
Dollar
1st,
City
1960.
mentioned. Silver Dollar City mentioned. Silver Dollar City mentioned. Silver Dollar City mentioned.
At the same time that Marble Cave and Silver Dollar City were forming, Branson's music scene was being established. The neighboring Springfield, Missouri became the filming location for the Ozark
The
Jubilee,
Bald
a
Knobbers.
national television program featuring country music.
He's
In
spitting.
1959, the Bald Knobbers Jamboree, a country music and comedy act named after the defunct vigilante group, started performing. This has been cited as Branson's first regular show, and more acts followed shortly after. Silver Dollar City continued to expand as more entertainment was established, which in turn encouraged the creation of other attractions. In 1970, the Mutton Hollow Arts and Crafts Village opened, owned by local entrepreneurs G.E. and Amanda Cushman. Named after the fictional town from the Shepherd of the Hills novel, Mutton Hollow featured several traditional Ozarks vendors selling goods to visitors, which enthralled tourists throughout the 1970s.
Enthralling. Wow. It's beautiful.
In 1903, the first celebrity entertainment venue was built in Branson
That was
with the
good.
opening of the appropriately named Roy Clark Celebrity Theater. Other country music artists followed suit, and by 1991, Branson was in the midst of a celebrity boom. The once quiet Ozark town now boasted 22 theaters and was bringing in a reported $1 billion in annual revenue. The 1991 60 Minutes report effectively showcased the scale of Branson's entertainment operations to a nationwide audience, while also revealing its target demographic.
Old people.
Throughout most of Branson's near century as an entertainment destination, it had attracted family audiences, often Midwest families seeking a geographically convenient and less risque entertainment destination than that of Las Vegas. It was often said that the 3 F's of Branson were faith, family, and flag. However, the transition into a celebrity country music mecca had narrowed Branson's main audience to a very specific group of people. Old people. Old people. Elderly people. Specifically, the greatest generation, born between the years 1901 and 1927, who would have been, in 1991, between the ages of 63 and 90 years old. These people were herded around the country like cattle, primarily via bus, often organized by local retirement communities. These people, who came of age during the Great Depression, were described as socially conservative deal seekers. They wanted their entertainment cheap, free of cursing, little bit of Jesus, a lot of Americana, and if
Little
the
bit of
envelope
Jesus.
was pushed, it needed to be in a rowdy, good old boy way, not a scary, challenging of social norms way. Pandering to this clientele made a lot of people very wealthy. There's a lot of money to be made in exclusively catering to people that are just about to die. But there's also a problem with it. What happens when they do?
Gulp.
Branson's main source of income were people that were just a few years or months, days, and you'd have to imagine in some cases minutes away from death.
There's gotta
Absent
be so many
significant
people
and
that have
immediate
died
advances
there.
in biohacking, Branson's boom could be short-lived, but at the time of the 60 Minutes report, there was no end in sight. Not only was the segment proof of Branson's growing influence, but many credit the 60 Minute special itself to driving Branson's attendance in the ensuing years even higher. This surge in visitors encouraged several of Branson's longtime entertainment purveyors to alter their strategies in the hopes of pulling in more of the tourism traffic. The quaint Mutton Hollow Arts and Crafts Village had been free to enter since its opening in 1970, but in 1992, the Cushman family greenlit a multi-million-dollar renovation, which would add 2 music theaters and 17 thrill rides to the land. After the changes began, Mutton Hollow
I know the
began
song,
charging
but I don't
admission,
know what
but
it's
this
from.
shift in approach was not successful. Just 4 years later, admission was made free again, and the newly
Played a long
added
game,
rides
turned into
were
haunted
given a
house for
separate
40 years.
fee.
True.
The investments and format changes had not paid off, and in 1997, Mutton Hollow was set to be foreclosed on. The Cushmans, who had now operated the village for over 25 years, filed for bankruptcy to avoid the foreclosure. The park was not alone in its
Rest in
struggles,
peace.
as numerous Branson theaters were filing for bankruptcy at this point, which some believe signaled an end to Branson's boom. The Cushman family was optimistic that they could get Mutton Hollow back on track, with their daughter commenting, quote, "Needless to say how dear it is to our hearts. This is a piece of Branson history, not only for our family, but for the whole area. I feel very peaceful about it. I know the good Lord is on our side." Unfortunately, in his infinite wisdom, God decided that what was actually best for the Cushmans was for Mutton Hollow to be foreclosed on and sold to Bob Weir, founder of Aaron's Automotive Parts, the 112-acre property, which was centrally located
There's so
near
much
Branson's
dry
Park.
humor in these videos that just like if you're not listening close enough, it makes you won't like you'll miss it. But that's one of those moments where I'm like, I giggled.
Bustling entertainment strip sold for $2.5 million in December of 1997. Weir, who was in his early 70s at the time of purchase, initially said that he was not sure what he would do with the property, but not long after, he unveiled big plans for Mutton Hollow. Weir announced that he would be tearing down most of the quaint arts and crafts village in order to build a new amusement park in its place. His primary motivation for entering the amusement park business was simply that he believed that it would be fun. After purchasing the
Yay,
land,
I love fun.
Weir brought in numerous consultants to look at the property, all of whom advised against building an amusement park. Weir explained, quote, "They thought a better use for the land, and one with higher earnings potential, was a new area of hotels, shopping, and theme restaurants." Adding, quote, "I was hoping they would encourage me." Not swayed by the advice, Weir continued forward with his park, which he would name Branson USA. Most of the attractions that Weir assembled for his park were pre-existing or off-the-shelf amusement rides. This included a Ferris wheel from Italy and a roller coaster from Belgium. A few of Mutton Hollow's attractions would remain, as would the village's largest structure, a round building that had held Mutton Hollow's dinner show, which would become Branson USA's USA Theater. Some of the more unique features of the park would be an elevated go-kart track, a 2.5-acre miniature golf course, and most notably, a nightly laser light spectacular. Branson USA would not charge admission,
Wow,
and would instead sell
laser
single ride
light
tickets and an all-access
spectacular.
day pass. Towards the end of construction, Weir remarked, quote, "We sure spent a lot more money than I had in mind, but I wanted to do it right." Branson USA officially opened on June 4th, 1999. Branson USA's debut was not met with much fanfare, and it seemed that the park was struggling with marketing,
Go
PR,
program. See you later.
and
See you
even
later, Wishy
describing
Coffee.
its
Thank you for
rides,
joining.
rides on its own website. Fireball, Do You Dare, only 4 of these in the US, and we have one. Sea Dragon, much more than it looks.
Much more than it
Bumper
looks.
Cars, bumping your buddy is fun for everyone.
I love bumping my
Tarantula,
buddies.
a longtime fun ride. Despite adding 10 new rides in 2000, including the Zyklon coaster, Branson USA still struggled to get coverage in the media outside of an occasional mention alongside Branson's other attractions. However, that all changed in
Well,
late
bumping my
July
buddies.
2000 when the Twizzler Mobile, aka the Goo Mobile,
I
pulled
love
up to Branson,
Twizzlers.
USA.
I love
Out popped the Goo
Twizzlers.
Crew, who challenged the guests at the park to compete in a variety of tongue twisters. The Goo Crew, otherwise known as the Goo Patrol,
that sounds
was
so
traveling
sick.
the country in the Twizzler Mobile, aka the Goo Mobile, aka the PT Goozer, to promote the new Twizzlers Twist and Fill candy.
I
as
know we're
well as
all
the
trying to
upcoming
goon for the
Twizzlers Tongue
Goon
Twister
Mobile.
Challenge Championship, a competition in which children could submit their most innovative tongue twister for the chance to win a $10,000 scholarship. The winning tongue twister was, quote, "Terrifically tangy Twizzlers Twist and Fills, twist your tongue with taste. Try to top that." Terrifically tangy Twizzlers Twist and Fills, twist your tongue with taste, try to top that. Terrifically tangy Twizzlers Twist and Fills, twist your tongue with taste, try to top that. It's not that hard.
Terrifically tangy twisters, twist and fills, twist your tongue with taste. Try to top that. Terrifically tangy twisters, twist and fills, twist your tongue. Terrifically tangy twisters, twist and fills, twist your tongue with taste. Try to top that. Terrifically tangy twisters, twist and fills, twist your tongue with taste. Try to top.
How did
Whatever.
that win?
Who cares?
If you're
I don't even
wondering why
care.
I'm honing in on this so much, you're officially out of the Goo Crew. But if you must know,
No. Guys, we're all in the Goo Crew together.
because this might have been the most exciting thing to take place at Branson USA in its first 2 seasons of operation. For the summer of 2001, Weir added a new water ride, the Pipeline Plunge Water Ride. That same year, the park also added the Magnificent Seven, a musical variety show that would take residency in Branson USA's theater.
There's a roller coaster and a fireball too, and the pipeline plunge. It's all waiting for you. Branson, USA.
Yo, that's tough. Branson, USA. I know we're all
Preparation for this
hitting the
type of
arm
headlining
motions
show,
right
A new
now.
building was attached to the existing Rotunda Theater building. Decorated to look like a castle, this building would serve as the USA Theater's dedicated entrance for those only visiting for the show, and it would also act as a convention center. On July 21st, 2001, one of the trains on the Firestorm roller coaster crashed into the back of another, sending 8 people to the hospital. Media at the time reported on
Gulp.
Branson USA's lack of responsiveness to the issue, with many of the victims unable to reach the park or its insurance company to discuss compensation for their bills.
What
Despite
insurance
costing just
company?
$20 for adults and $12 for children to
What
access
insurance
all
company?
of the park's attractions, Branson USA appeared to have failed to gain momentum in its first 3 seasons. Not only were they experiencing internal issues such as the Firestorm accident, but the Branson tourism boom as a whole appeared to be slowing. A string of bad weather throughout 2000 was blamed for stagnating ticket sales, but the excuses ran out when tourism dipped again in 2001. Many wondered if the thinkable had happened, that Branson's old consumer base, now 10 years older than when I first pointed out how old they were, was dwindling. And by that I mean dying of old age. They were old, you get it. In November of 2001, just 3.5 years after opening, it was announced that Branson USA would be closing. The inability to gain traction in the market, the accident on the Firestorm coaster, and the
No,
decline
gosh, I was so... Fuck, I love Branson, USA. No, gosh, no. No. Born 98 to 04.
Branson tourism could have all played a part in Weir's decision, but according to him, the reasoning was simple. Weir explained, quote, "As time went along and we got the theater opened, I realized I liked the theater business better. It also helped that Weir had reached a unique deal with the Silver Dollar City Corporation, who were looking to expand their theme park operations in Branson. The deal was not a simple sale. Rather, it was a land swap in which Silver Dollar City would acquire Branson USA, and Weir would acquire 2 central
Table
Branson
Rock
properties
Lake
and an
mentioned.
undisclosed amount of cash.
I've been
Lisa
there.
Rao, spokesperson for Silver Dollar City, said, quote, "It was the location
I've
and
been
size
there.
of the relatively flat property that made it attractive." The Silver Dollar City Corporation, still owned by the Hershans, had come a long way from its humble origins as a cave tour. Not only had Silver Dollar City itself grown substantially, but the company had expanded into other themed entertainment ventures in Branson, such as the Showboat Branson Belle Dinner Cruise, the Whitewater Water Park, the Grand Palace Theater, and the Grand Village Shopping Mall. In 1977, the company purchased a park in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and renamed it to Silver Dollar City,
Oh, yeah.
Tennessee. And in
Or you know what? You go to Pigeon Forge. Or like Gatlinburg. My mom talks about Gatlinburg like it's the most amazing place you'll ever go in the entire world. She was like, Luciano, I'm thinking about taking a vacation to Gatlinburg, Tennessee. I don't know what the fuck they have in Gatlinburg that makes it so appealing to old people. But apparently it's appealing.
1986, the Hershans sold an interest in the park to singer Dolly Parton. The park was renamed to Dollywood.
Your trip to the Smokies really isn't
Dollywood mentioned!
Dollywood
The
mentioned!
Hershans had smaller ventures elsewhere, but their 2 primary hubs were obviously Branson and Pigeon Forge. Their attractions all had similar themes, played to a specific demographic, and had experienced similar
go walk around the
success.
Bass Show
The company was
pyramid.
determined to expand their
Perchance.
operations in both locations, and the acquisition of Branson USA would be the company's next big investment in the city in which they were founded. Initially, Silver Dollar City did not disclose their plans for the park, although initial documents did indicate that they planned to operate a theme park on the site. The month after the purchase was announced, construction began. It was not until July of 2002 that the company unveiled their plans for the space. Unlike Weir, who built his park seemingly on a whim and against the advice of multiple experts, the plans that Silver Dollar City had for the space were strategic and well thought out. The new park would be named Celebration City, and it would be themed around early to mid 20th century America. This would set it apart from the 1880s theme of Silver Dollar City. but it would also help appeal to younger audiences. The plans for Celebration City were clearly made with the understanding that Branson needed to transition away from the greatest generation to a younger, hipper generation, the baby boomers. The differences between the consumer habits of the two generations was stark. Tim O'Brien,
Feels crazy to say
editor
that
of
the baby
Amusement
boomers
Business
were young and
Magazine,
hip at some
explained,
point.
quote, "The niche of the old-timers is dying off, but there's a whole new crop of seniors. It's the baby boomers, and they're totally a new generation. They're not doing the things the older generation did. They're still doing the things they did before they were seniors."
Wow,
And they
riveting.
still are. Making this transition would not be an easy task. Branson's average visiting age at this point in the early 2000s was 55. That's an average. That means for every 10-year-old boy that loves roller coasters, there would need to be a 100-year-old geriatric man who would die if he rode one to get that average back to 55. In order to appeal to the young, hot baby boomers, Celebration City would incorporate themes from the mid-century, including car culture and rock and roll. Claudia Vecchio, VP of Communications for the Branson Lakes Area Chamber of Commerce, said the park would, quote, "celebrate mid-century America, a time that is more familiar to baby boomers. This park will definitely bring new visitors." Another motivation for Celebration City and its thematic setting would be that it would allow Silver Dollar City to make compromises with quality and atmosphere that they were unwilling to make at their flagship park. While Silver Dollar City had grown substantially in its first 4 decades of operation, it was still different from a typical regional amusement park. It was heavily themed, and it mainly consisted of quieter attractions, traditional demonstrations, and small shops. One of the park's most exciting rides was an indoor roller coaster named Fire in the Hole. And this
I
attraction
love
was
Fire
much
in the
more
Hole.
focused on story.
Guys, one of my very first roller coasters that I've ever been on was Fire in the Hole, and I remember it very clearly. There was a part where it went like, "Fire in the Hole," really loudly, and then it dropped you a whole bunch of feet, and it was really scary. And I remember I was always so scared when I rode it. I feel bad that it's gone now, and then I'll never get to experience it ever again. But it was a very fond childhood memory.
And dark ride scenes than thrills.
Fruitier
It would not
Aero
be until
coasters. I guess when
1993
we're
that Silver Dollar City
55.
would receive its first
When the
outdoor
people
roller
who grew
coaster,
up with that stuff is
Thunderation.
55.
And in 1999, the park
And they're
received
closed.
the
They
innovative
just
but
closed
ultimately
Thunderation 2. Silver Dollar City just closed Thunderation 2.
reliable roller coaster water ride hybrid named Buzzsaw Falls. These custom themed thrill rides added excitement to the park, but Silver Dollar City's quiet atmosphere and consistent theming was still valued by both management and guests. There seemed to be an aversion to adding non-themed, off-the-shelf thrill rides, which could potentially produce a more rowdy, carnival-like atmosphere. That said, these types of rides are attractive to park operators. For one, more thrill rides attract more thrill seekers, which helps bring in a younger crowd. Plus, off-the-shelf rides are almost always cheaper and quicker to add and maintain. Celebration City would be able to take advantage of these benefits, while keeping the potential drawbacks completely separate from Silver Dollar City. The new park would still be a theme park, but the themes chosen would allow for more flexibility with ride selection. One of the areas would be themed to an early 20th century boardwalk, in the vein of Coney Island, which would allow for the placement of several standard amusement park rides while retaining thematic consistency. The announcement in July of 2002 alluded to the possibility that Celebration City would open later in the day and would rely on the foot
Hard Rock
traffic
Cafe.
of nearby attractions.
I've never
on
been
the
to a Hard
Branson
Rock
Strip.
Cafe.
Another
For the longest time, I didn't understand by Hard Rock they were talking about like music. I thought that they just meant like that rocks were hard. And I was like, well yeah. Duh.
A press release in November of 2002 further detailed this concept.
Yeah, I mean, they
Celebration
usually
City would
are.
not open until 3 p.m. every day, and it would stay open until either 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. on most days. The idea was for it to be a sequel park, with the intention being that guests would spend the first part of their day in
Their
the
logo, it's
19th century
guitar.
themed
Yeah,
Silver
but
Dollar
I'm
City,
stupid.
and then travel to the 20th century
Tomato
themed
cocktail
Celebration
drink.
City
Oh,
to end
Bloody
their day.
Mary.
This was a bespoke, linear narrative park hopping experience. And Silver Dollar City did not seem to grasp, or at least communicate, just how ambitious this concept was. Linda Antis, VP of Marketing and Sales for Silver Dollar City, simply explained that Celebration City would be, quote, as different from Silver Dollar City as night and day, literally. This will be the place to go at night after being at Silver Dollar City during the day. There were very few details provided on how this migration process would occur, or how many people Silver Dollar City thought would
Yeah,
be
I'm
splitting
not
their
sure
day
about
between the
that.
two parks.
Most people go to one park for a day and they're like permanently done. I'm not sure many people could do multiple. Maybe like per day, right? But like one park in one day and one park in another. But I don't know if anybody could do 2 parks in one day. I feel like that's a lot. That's a lot, you know?
Construction continued on Celebration City throughout 2002. In January of 2003, it was announced that the new park would open in May of that year. The park cost $40 million to construct and would occupy around 40 acres of the 112-acre property that Silver Dollar City had acquired from Weir. A
Park
few
in
of
one
Branson
day.
USA's attractions would remain and be reused, most
That's a
notably the
lot.
Ferris wheel. But the scale of the construction was significant. Rao emphasized, quote, "We're not just putting some paint on what was. This is a whole new theme park." The park's main attraction would be a new wooden roller coaster built by the Pennsylvania-based Great Coasters International.
GCI
The
mentioned.
tall wooden
GCI
structure would be
mentioned.
visible
I love
from around
GCI.
Branson's main strip, and the ride was intended to
GCI
serve as a sort of
mentioned.
billboard for the park. The GCI coaster would cost $4 million to construct, around 10% of the park's total budget. In December of
Great Coasters
2002,
International.
Silver Dollar City Incorporated rebranded to the Hershend Family Entertainment Corporation to better reflect the scope of their expanding entertainment operations. The finishing touches were being put on Celebration City throughout the spring of 2003. Despite Hershend's confidence in the concept, there were clearly some details still being worked out. The park planned to open with 1,500 parking spaces, despite having a total capacity of 9,000 people. The general manager of
take your mic.
Celebration
I will
City,
try.
Steve Honeycutt, explained, quote, "Early on,
Honeycutt's
it seemed
an awesome
adequate,
last
but
name.
we're the buzz of the town. I don't think we'll be able to meet the demand, and that's a nice problem to have." Honeycutt added that the exact time the park would close was also up in the air, explaining, quote, "We're saying we're going to close at 11. We may push that to 12. If we're busy and people are having a good time, we're not going to run them out." The park's construction lasted just 16 months, and on May 1st, 2003, Celebration City opened its gates, hoping to draw a new generation of tourists to the Branson area. Visitors entered Celebration City through
That sounds so
Celebration Street,
awesome.
an area themed to the turn of the century.
Y'all
with
like
several
celebrating?
New structures built to resemble Victorian-era buildings. Celebration Street mainly consisted of shops, but the land did feature one ride, a carousel. This carousel was
Tough.
left over from Branson, USA, but it was repainted and moved to this prime location at the entrance of the park. After reaching the end of Celebration Street, if guests turned left, they would enter Route 66, an area set in the mid-century. Not only did this theme specifically appeal to baby boomers who grew up in this era,
Tough.
but it also had a local connection. The nearby Springfield, Missouri
I've
is
been there
recognized as the
too.
birthplace of Route 66 because in 1926, an entrepreneur from
I've
Springfield
actually, I think I've been to this. Oh. Hello. Was it
suggested
here?
renaming what was then Highway 62
I want to say that I've been to this exact hotel before. I want to say that yeah.
to the more catchy and now
I'm pretty positive. Yeah.
iconic Route 66.
I think it's in Carthage, Illinois.
Connection. The nearby Springfield, Missouri is
Wait.
recognized as the birthplace of Route 66
Not this.
because in
This. Yeah.
1926, an entrepreneur from Springfield suggested renaming what was then
What
Highway
did I say?
62
Carthage,
to the more
Missouri?
catchy
That's it.
and now iconic Route 66. Celebration City's Route
Did I say
66
Illinois?
area would feature several
Why did I
rides
say
left
that?
over from Branson, USA, such as the Tilt-A-Whirl,
I'm tired,
the
man.
Scrambler, and several kiddie rides. The go-kart track was rethemed to the Route 66 Go-Kart Speedway. The mini golf course was rethemed to roadside golf, and the bumper cars were rethemed to slick, slightly used bumper cars. Branson USA's Sky
I'm
Chaser Ferris
sleepy.
wheel became the Electric Star wheel, and the Firestorm roller coaster became
Hopefully
the
I'll
Thunderbolt.
be more awake tomorrow for Subnautica. But I'm really tired. Not only was I really tired after the roller coaster stuff on Saturday, but the day after, we were still doing stuff. And then after all of my friends went home, my aunt had planned something. And I didn't really have the chance to get out of it. But I had the best fried chicken of my life, so it was all good. But I went home and then I slept for like 16 hours.
There were also several new off-the-shelf rides, such as the Orbiter and the Jack Rabbit roller coaster. The area also
Tough.
featured several themed shops and restaurants, including the Last Chance Diner. The highlight of Route 66, and Celebration City as a whole, was the Ozark Wildcat. The GCI coaster stood just over 80 feet tall and featured over 2,600 feet of track. It had a relatively small footprint, resulting in a ride time of just 90 seconds.
Oh, that's
Originally,
short.
the attraction was said to feature a 360-degree spiraling drop and reach speeds of 66 miles per hour. However, after opening, these were amended to be a 310-degree spiraling drop with a max speed of 45 miles per hour. The coaster did effectively act as a billboard for the park, occupying the space closest to the highway, making the park visible to those driving down the Branson Strip. Celebration City's third themed area would be the Electric Boardwalk. This area experienced the least amount of change during the transition to Celebration City, as in this same spot,
Jacking
Branson
the
USA
rabbit.
had
I'm
an
not
area named the
jacking my
Boardwalk,
rabbit.
and
That
several
sounds
of these structures,
disgusting.
rides, and games would remain intact, including the Boardwalk games, the Boardwalk Kiddie rides, and the Fireball. Branson USA's Fall Creek Plunge was rethemed to Shoot to Shoot. The Accelerator Drop Tower was also added and was used heavily in the park's promotion. A few of the buildings that Branson USA had inherited from Mutton Hollow still remained in Celebration City, most notably the Rotunda Theater, which was renamed to the Celebration Theater and would be used for shows, with the attached building renamed to Celebration Hall.
I bet
The
a
highlight of the
hardcore
Electric
show
Boardwalk
there
would be
would
the
go
Great
so
Lawn.
crazy.
This would be the venue for the Nightly Spectacular, named Celebrate. The new show, which was not ready at the time of opening, was to be set in front of a 45-foot tall faux rock wall, which appeared as the side of a mountain. The display would incorporate lasers, projections, confetti, and fireworks, all while paying
Look at the
tribute to
Denny's
iconic
Grand
moments
Slam.
and notable figures
Bro, I'm
from
thinking
20th
about it.
century America, such as the space race and Elvis.
That'd be so
In addition
tough.
to showcasing 20th century icons, the Celebrate show featured a story, which an article in the Tulsa World paper described as a, quote, simple one, but then went on to describe the narrative, in which, quote, a young person and her grandfather release a tornado-like spirit called Fizzgig, the queen of celebration,
Sure.
who takes the two and the viewers through the past 5 decades. Herschend stuck to its original concept. Celebration City did not open until 3 p.m., while Silver Dollar City closed at 7 p.m. Herschend heavily advertised multi-park passes, which they referred to as city hoppers, to encourage people to start their day at Silver Dollar City and end their day at Celebration City. Unlike Branson USA, Celebration City received a massive amount of coverage at the time of its opening. Herschend pulled out all of the stops, holding a grand opening celebration at the end of May, with the Celebrate fireworks show premiering during it. The park continued to receive positive press throughout its inaugural season. It remained open on weekends throughout the fall, before closing entirely for the winter. For the 2004 season,
I know we're all trying to hit up Celebration City.
Chaos and Flying Circus, as well as adding additional theming and improving the food and merchandise options. According to Lisa Rao, the additions were made because, quote, Celebration City did what we hoped it would do, and that's why we decided to make this investment. It attracted families as well as new visitors. It gave people one more very active reason to visit Branson. During the 2004 season, Herschend began allowing a non-denominational evangelical church named Woodland Hills to hold services out of the Celebration Theater throughout the morning, with the condition that the congregation must vacate the premises by the time Celebration City opened in the afternoon. This was a rare and strange agreement that only makes sense given that Herschend is a Christian company and that the park had bizarre operating hours. Celebration City experienced a few changes in preparation for its 2005 season.
It
Route
wouldn't be the
66 eatery
Midwest
Kix
without
Grill
a
became
strange
Kix
church.
Barbecue. A new upcharge attraction was also added to Route 66, a life-size version of the game Rock'em Sock'em Robots, where guests would climb into each fighter and throw punches at one another. This throwback game was perfect for the mid-century theming of Route 66, but the contracted company that owned and operated the game did not have the license to use Rock'em Sock'em Robots, so Celebration City's attraction was instead called Rock'em Knock'em Robots. Also new in 2005
completely
was
new
the
thing.
Circus Tree Gardens. The Herschends prided themselves on protecting and showcasing nature in their attractions, having a long-standing rule that for every one tree they cut down, 2 more must be planted. The Circus Tree Gardens were a way to add more serenity and nature to Celebration City, which was much needed given that a large part of Branson, USA was sprawling concrete patches with scarce greenery or shade. One of the biggest changes for 2005 was a complete revamp of Celebration City's nighttime show, which was said to cost $2 million. The new show, named Nightfire, Igniting the American Spirit, would retain the Americana focus of Celebrate, but would add additional effects and show elements.
It was absolutely patriotic, and it really raised the hair on my arms. It was absolutely beautiful.
President Reagan, when they brought down the wall,
the Gorbachev, and we like that real well.
Finally, while not a complete
Wait, that's
rebrand,
God. Wait, that's good. That's a gem. Wait, Wait, that's gemmy. That's a gem.
City received a new logo, transitioning from a classical, elegant style to a louder, more modern-looking one. By this point, many were wondering when Celebration City's next big addition would be unveiled, which made Herschend's announcement at the end of the season somewhat surprising. On November 6, 2005, Herschend Family Entertainment announced an $8 million expansion of Silver Dollar City. The new area would be named the Grand Exposition and would be themed to the
Gulp.
fairs and expos of the late 19th century. As part of the expansion, Silver Dollar City would add 10 new family-friendly rides, which would nearly double the park's ride count, going from a mere 11 rides to 21. These new attractions would consist primarily of off-the-shelf flat rides, using the exposition theme to justify their inclusion in the space. This was an interesting decision. Often, when a company opens an additional gate, they run the risk of cannibalizing their own business. The fear being that the new attraction will hurt attendance at the existing older one. That did not happen with the addition of Celebration City. Whether it was because the park was not entirely new, or because it did not have as much to do, or because of the operating hour strategy, Silver Dollar City was not negatively affected by the opening of the new park. The summer that Celebration City opened, Silver Dollar City experienced an attendance dip of around 10%, which some officials attributed to Celebration City, although there were several other factors, including Branson's slowing tourism, that were also cited. If Celebration City was to blame, the effects were short-lived. Just 2 seasons later, Silver Dollar City was doing great, with Rao even stating that the park's attendance was growing at a rate of 100,000 visitors
Holy
annually.
guac.
This is what made the announcement of the Grand Exposition all the more curious. Not only was this an additional investment in the park that was already doing well, but it would specifically add the exact type of rides that Celebration City already had. These were really the only type of rides that Celebration City had outside of the Ozark Wildcat. Rao confirmed that Celebration City's attendance had not been rising, and that the company would be making an investment in the park, explaining that attendance was, quote, flat to slightly down, and that's why we're adding more to do. But nothing that Herschend had announced for Celebration City came close to the $8 million Grand Exposition expansion that Silver Dollar City would receive. There was one sacrifice that Herschend seemed willing to make to give Celebration City an advantage. In 2002, Silver Dollar City had partnered with Big Idea Productions to bring a stage show based off of the popular VeggieTales video.
I know that's not who I think it is. Yo, Bob, Larry, and friends live on stage. No freaking way. I'm hauling my happy ass over their stat
series to the park. This was a match made in literal Christian heaven. VeggieTales was a video series in which a cast of anthropomorphic vegetables retold stories from the Bible. By the early 2000s, it was the #1 kids video series on Earth. Herschend was America's premier Christian-themed entertainment company. The pairing was perfect, and the appearance of Bob the Tomato and Larry the Cucumber at Silver Dollar City was a huge draw for families. In 2003, Dollywood
You know, if you think about it, in the Bible it says that nobody except like humans can go to heaven. So that means that even despite the fact that Larry and Bob believed in God, they were not seeing him ever. Isn't that fucked up?
The VeggieTales
Hello,
stage
Bear
show.
Warrior
And in
06, what's
2005,
good?
They would receive the first VeggieTales themed ride, the VeggieTales Sideshow Spin Coaster.
With Dorbies
in Branson,
instead.
Though,
Truth
Herschend had
nuke.
decided to send the veggies to the struggling Celebration City. A new VeggieTales video would play in the Celebration Theater, and children would also be able to meet the stars, Bob the Tomato and Larry the Cucumber, which answered the age-old question, how do you hug a tomato? Because you can't hug Bob where you would want to, where it would be normal to. That's where his mouth is. So you gotta kind of hold him, like the pregnant woman emoji. Other additions in 2006 included the extreme sport of mountain boarding stunt show and the interactive stage show, Movie Magic, Lights, Camera, Action, and You,
and
which
me?
allowed kids to produce and star in Hollywood films such as Rocky, Pink Panther, Legally Blonde, and Agent Cody Banks. 1 year after its debut, Nightfire, Ignite the American
Do they simply
Spirit
look or are they
was
going to
changed
hell?
to
Who
Ignite
knows?
the Night, which was now touted as a $3 million show. One attraction, Chaos, was removed for the
Songs of War
2006
episode
season,
1.
which the park declined to comment
Bro,
on,
what?
but many speculated that it was due to maintenance issues.
What is that?
The 2007 season saw the addition of 2 new
I'm so
animal
tired.
shows. First, Sea Lion Splash would be staged in
Yo!
a new pool built on the parking
I know
lot
we're all
near
trying to
Route
pull up to
66.
Sea Lion
This show was
Splash.
created in partnership with Animal Planet. The other show, named Parrot Party, would take place inside
Yo!
the Celebration Theater.
I know we're all
A
trying
new
to pull up
ride,
to
the
Parrot
Stinger,
Party.
was also added near the Jackrabbit roller coaster. It was not until the 2008 season that Celebration City received a significant addition. Herschend added a new attraction named Roaring Falls, which sent 20 passenger boats down a 5-story, 55-degree drop.
Holy
The
moly.
attraction originally opened at Ohio amusement park Geauga Lake as Shipwreck Falls in 2000, and was sold to Herschend after the amusement park portion of Geauga Lake closed in 2007.
Ooh.
Celebration City's version of the
Tut
attraction
rough.
added Amazon theming, with sound and mist effects to set the tone, despite this not fitting in with the theme of the boardwalk area or really any of Celebration City's established themes. Rouse said of the addition, quote, "The bottom line is, we are not
Songs
the
of
boss.
War episode
The
1.
guests
What
are the
is
boss,
it?
And mostly mom. Roaring Falls is exactly what they want, a big, get wet, whole family thrill ride." 2008 also saw the addition of a frisbee dog show named Jump, and apparently Parrot
Tough.
Party was lame and tensionless because it was replaced by extreme parrots, whatever that means.
Minecraft animation series from like half a decade ago. Yo, there he goes. Holy shit.
Unfortunately, the high-octane nature of the parrots and the other additions to the park were not enough to turn the tide. The 2008 season was another quiet one for
I'm so
Celebration City.
tired.
The park was visited by around 300,000 to 400,000 guests, the same range that it had experienced every year since opening in 2003. Silver Dollar City, on the other hand, was visited by over 2 million people a year,
Fuck.
making Celebration City's attendance look far worse, even when accounting for fewer operating days. 2008 was a poor year for tourism in general, due to the effects of the economic recession and high gas prices. And Branson specifically had a
Boy,
wet
don't I
spring
know
that
it.
resulted in severe flooding,
Don't I
turning away
freaking
many
know it.
travelers. These external pressures forced Herschend to take a hard look at its operations, and by the end of the year, the company had made a difficult decision. On Friday, October 24th, 2008, Herschend Family Entertainment announced that Celebration City would be closing for good. Rao explained, quote, "What we developed at Celebration City was a good property, but it did not meet our financial expectations." The company broke the news the day before the final operating day of the 2008 season, resulting in the park permanently closing just 24 hours after the announcement. Herschend
Damn.
worked to relocate as many employees as possible to their other Branson attractions. Rouse stated that Herschend intended to redevelop the Celebration City property into, quote, "some other kind of attraction," and that, quote, "several ideas were in the works, including a potential aquarium, although no plans were ready to be
How
disclosed."
much is left of this?
Rouse stated, quote, "It's sad. We're
Um,
not happy to do this. These are tough economic times."
I don't know.
The reaction to Celebration
Enough of
City's
it.
closure was split. The
I'm
park
gonna
had
finish this
developed a
video
fan base
and
in its 6
probably
seasons of operation,
end stream,
who were
so-
obviously devastated by the announcement of the park's closure. At the same time, many longtime Branson residents and visitors were not surprised to see the park go, and a few might have even been happy to see the park fail. This contingency of people mainly consisted of those that grew up going to Mutton Hollow, which by comparison was a more quaint, authentic, and most critically, generational experience. Mutton Hollow lasted 4 times as long as Celebration City, and it had captured the hearts of significantly more people. Many of these fans blamed Herschend for the destruction of Mutton Hollow, even though Weir and Branson USA were actually responsible. While unfair and incorrect, this sentiment hung over Celebration City. The one aspect of the park that was universally mourned was the closure of the Ozark Wildcat, Celebration City's most unique and critically praised attraction. When the closure was announced, many hoped that the coaster would be moved or integrated into whatever Herschend had planned for the
it's a
property
Woody.
next.
That's not
2009 passed with no updates on the site. On May 16th, a liquidation sale was held, in which discounted merchandise was sold to clear the park's remaining inventory. Over the next few years, several of Celebration City's attractions were relocated. The Jackrabbit Coaster, the Scrambler, and Flying Circus were moved to another Herschend property, Wild Adventures in Valdosta, Georgia. Fireball and Shoot to Shoot were sold to carnival operators, who took them to fairs around the country. The Thunderbolt Coaster was purchased by Glenwood Caverns Adventure Park in Colorado, where it would open as Cliffhanger in 2012. Even with these relocations, Many attractions remained on the site 3 years after the permanent closure of the park, including
Damn.
the highly visible Ozark Wildcat.
Rest
the
in
Woodland Hills
peace.
Church continued to operate out of the Celebration Theater and even expanded into the park, renting out a few of the vacant buildings. Herschend began using some of the buildings for administrative tasks, such as offices and storage. In 2011, the company allowed Big Brothers Big Sisters of the Ozarks to use a building in the park as an office. In 2014, Herschend unveiled plans for another expansion to Silver Dollar City, named Fireman's Landing. This $8 million land would feature 10 new attractions, 6 of which were family rides. One of these would be Celebration City's Accelerator Drop Tower, which was rethemed to Firefall to fit the new area. While
Tough.
Herschend continued to invest in Silver Dollar City, Celebration City sat mostly abandoned. Given that there were some authorized activities, the park was not entirely fenced off, resulting in several urban explorers walking right into the park. Much of
I really
Celebration
wanna do
City's theming
urbex
and
like this. I
exteriors
think that'd be
remained
so
in
tough.
relatively good condition, and several rides, such as the Carousel and the Ozark Wildcat, sat motionless in full view. Most eerie, one of the props from the Route 66 area, a giant cymbal-banging monkey toy,
Aw,
was
hell
left
no.
behind, and the already
Aw,
creepy-looking statue
hell
was
no.
deteriorating quickly. In 2015, the Orbiter, which had remained on the property for some time, was finally moved to Wild Adventures, where it opened as Jungle Rumble. That same year, Herschend would release their biggest update on the park since it was closed. Unfortunately, it was more bad news.
No.
The Ozark Wildcat, which had now been sitting dormant as long as it had operated, would be demolished. Some of the trains would be sent to Dollywood to be used on their GCI coaster, Thunderhead, while the rest of the structure would be completely destroyed. This would be the first GCI coaster to be demolished, and as of early 2026, the only one. The demolition would take several months. Rouse
Rest in
said that the ride
peace.
was unable to be moved and that the demolition was always the plan. Herschend had just now dedicated the resources to going through with it, adding, quote, "Something that people may not realize is that demolition is expensive." She also added that the property was, quote, "still something in the creative minds of our people, but it is not anything that is in any stage of blueprints at all." The group most dismayed at the destruction of the Ozark Wildcat was certainly the Woodland Hills Church. Ministry Director
They've
Denise
been
Bevins
goated
said
this
of
whole
the
time through
structure,
this.
quote, "It's been our location marker for telling people how to get to what we call our castle." The church's senior pastor, Ted Cunningham, asked that Woodland Hills creative director Corey Mitchell film the destruction of the coaster so it could be documented and uploaded to the church's YouTube and Facebook page. Mitchell was able to
Rest
catch
in
the
peace.
moment when the
This is their
demolition crew
Mecca.
attempted to take down one of the main stretches of track. After putting up a good fight, the Ozark Wildcat finally relented,
Rest in
toppling over
peace.
into a tangled mess of wood.
Rest in peace, 07 to the GOAT.
Some members of
07.
the church retrieved a few planks of the wood and made them into ornaments, passing out 800 of them to the congregation. The description of the demolition video read, quote, "We hope you can still find us for church on Sundays." The Ozark Wildcat's demolition felt like a true goodbye to the park, but much of Celebration City remained abandoned. Most of the original structures, thematic elements, and even a few rides sat unused for years. The next significant update would come 7 years after the Ozark Wildcat's demolition. In 2022, an auction was held, which consisted of many of
Damn.
Celebration City's props and theming. This included antique vehicles, neon signage, authentic Route 66 memorabilia,
Yo, I know we're all
antiques,
trying
and plenty
to-
of equipment and machines. One of the
I
most
know we're all
valuable
trying
pieces
to
sold
buy
at the
stuff
event
from the
was
Celebration
park's
City
carousel,
auction.
which had been sitting abandoned for nearly 14 years and was missing a horse. The auction took place throughout the abandoned park, with the items placed directly outside the
Little
park's
tokens, I mean.
intact themed
It is.
structures. While this
It is.
purged Celebration City of many of its visually interesting elements, much of the park still remained. As of 2026, most of the park structures can still be seen. The Victorian-era buildings of Celebration Street, the Great Lawn and its large rock wall, the go-kart track, and the buildings of Route 66 all survive.
This seems
sitting
so
abandoned.
cool to go
The
explore.
Woodland Hills Church continues to use the Celebration Theater, which is still made up partly of the Rotunda Theater that had originally been built for Mutton
I'm
Hollow
glad that they're
decades
still getting
prior.
use out of the
Herschend
theater,
still
though.
claims
That's
to be
cool.
looking into options for the valuable property, which sits directly adjacent to the still busy Branson Strip.
Damn.
Celebration
sad.
City was and is a curiosity, one that Herschend Family Entertainment still seems to be trying to figure out. The reason the park failed could be as simple as that it had no chance to succeed, because Branson just might not be able to support 2 theme parks. The boom that Branson experienced in the 90s was not sustainable, especially with its specific clientele. And while the town remains a popular tourist destination, it might never be one that can support two parks. The fact that Mutton Hollow, and then Weir, and then the Hershans themselves failed to establish one, especially given its prime location, indicates that this is an open and shut case of too much capacity for the existing market. On the other hand, Celebration City was weird. The entire concept of the sequel park and the linear park hopping experience was more ambitious than Hershan seemed to realize. A post by a user named Chadster on the Theme Park Review forums claims to have interviewed for Celebration City 7 months before the park opened. Chadster recalled, quote, "I quizzed them about having two parks close together. The park's GM said their theory was that Silver Dollar City would close between 6 and 8 in the evening, and that guests would just naturally migrate to Celebration City to end their day. I was skeptical. Some sources claim that Celebration City was not losing a lot of money, and most years it was profiting, albeit barely.
Great commentary,
if the park ever had any chance of surviving, then one of two things needed to happen.
Spoken pariah of
First,
sorts.
Hershey needed to invest in another impressive, unique ride, such as Ozark Wildcat, to make the park a true destination. Or they needed to go all in on their split-day concept. Both paths could negatively impact Silver Dollar City, which Hershan seemed unwilling to do. Throughout most of Celebration City's life, the park opened at 3 p.m. and closed at 10 p.m., while Silver Dollar City opened at 9:30 a.m. and closed at 7 p.m. This meant that if Silver Dollar City was pushing guests out to spend their night at Celebration City, they would have less than 3 hours to spend there before the park closed. The pricing of Celebration City was also interesting. Throughout its first 3 years, tickets cost around $30 per adult.
$30?
While Silver Dollar City cost
What?
around $40
Actually?
per adult. When accounting for the difference in operating hours, this meant that both parks were charging around $4 per hour.
That is
despite Silver Dollar
insane.
City having far more to offer, something that was not lost on value-conscious Midwest families. Hershan did reduce the price of Celebration City to around $22 for the 2006 season, but by 2008, it was back up to $29. Although in this same time, Silver Dollar City had surpassed $50 per adult, making Celebration City look like a good value by comparison. Celebration City's success in weaving themes around otherwise generic off-the-shelf rides might have also been its downfall, as it gave the company the confidence to do the same at Silver Dollar City, only better. Whether it was closing Silver Dollar City early, keeping Celebration City open later, adjusting pricing, adding another major thrill ride, or abandoning the day and night
I feel like it
concept
sucks. It really sucks, right? Because I've spoken about this before, but for us that are like night owls and whatnot, it really sucks because you can't go out anywhere or do anything without like police or the general populace thinking that you're trying to get up to trouble or do something bad. No, I just like the nighttime more, and I hate being out during the daytime. It's that simple. I'm just nocturnal. I can't help it.
City work. They hoped the park would be an overnight sensation, and they were not interested in a decade-long test and adjust in order to make the two-park setup a success. The Hershans have alluded to this in the years following Celebration City's closure. According to the Springfield News Leader, in 2012, Jack Hershand, quote, used the term arrogant to describe some ventures, including Celebration City. In the nearly 2 decades following Celebration City's closure, Hershand has continued to improve their existing parks, while also acquiring a few more. Silver Dollar City has grown into one of the most beloved regional parks in the United States, with an incredible variety of attractions, from their traditional, quaint demonstrations to new world-class thrill rides. In 2024, Silver Dollar City announced a $500 million development plan, which would begin with the construction of the Silver Dollar City Resort. This mirrors the company's
Silver Dollar
strategy
City
for
is
the
basically
similarly
Disney,
successful
but for the
Dollywood,
Midwest,
and
if
it
you
will
think about
solidify
it.
Silver Dollar City as one of the Ozarks' main draws. The news of the expansion fueled speculation about a second gate for the property, although it appears that if this were ever to occur, it would more than likely be on the 1,200 undeveloped acres surrounding Silver Dollar City, and not on the grounds of Celebration City. In 2025, Hershan Family Entertainment made its biggest move yet, acquiring Palace Entertainment from Parques Rayonitos, which brought 24 additional U.S. attractions into the still family-owned company.
Holy crap.
The continued success of both Silver Dollar City and Hershan Family Entertainment makes the abandoning of Celebration City all the more interesting. The park is a true mixed bag. It is a remnant of both fear and overconfidence, of ambition and disinterest. Many people miss it. Many are apathetic to it, and a few are even happy that it's gone. It is a true curiosity. It has now been abandoned for 3 times as long as it operated, and its future
Damn.
remains uncertain. Maybe one day it will finally be raised for a different attraction or business. Maybe it will be abandoned forever, slowly succumbing to the nature of the Ozarks. Or maybe it will become a theme park once more and be given a 4th
Looks like-
chance
it does
to
kinda look
establish
like
itself
Chernobyl,
in
doesn't it?
Branson's ever-changing entertainment landscape.
Tough. I like that his name is Kevin Perjurer. What's he perjuring? Tough. Guys, I'm sleepy, so I think I'm going to head off now. Thank you for just sitting here and watching YouTube with me. I realized this was a very low effort stream. I kind of don't have any effort in me right now. Yeah. Thanks. Wish I could brofist you through the screen. Brofist! Woo! I'm tired. Chat. This is Lou Channel signing off. Goodbye. Oily me. Bye. Brunoi $. True. Blah. Bye. That was disgusting. I'm sorry. Okay. I can feel my fingers. Oily me. Oily me. Bye. Ugh. Guys, I'm not doing Chinese proverb of the day because I'm tired. My brain and I'm so tired, okay? Okay. Well, let me see you guys tomorrow for some Nautica. Bye.